Hello, I'm Eagle. Eagle Gardens 1, and Smiley's Gardens. And this is the Rabbit Hole 211.5. How you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are headed back after a long break.
Long break.
Got a little squirreled there myself, man. Fucking ate a little spaghetti, a little bit of a sub, a little bit of dessert.
Got to though.
Fucked around on Instagram for a minute. Go. Do a little sideline. I should be dabbing. I haven't took a dab yet today. Might just swing my mood. That's funny. Cascadian Sass. Stony Creek.
What's up, this guy? Late 1978. What's going on, man? Ned Denver, Cascadian. I was born in 1978. He goes like, I graduated in 1976.
Oh, don't do that, dude.
I'm fucking around.
That's what.
I mean, 1776. You're a vampire. You like never age. He goes like, I haven't aged for 200 years now. You fucking haven't seen the sun. Don't even need to. What's up, Cascadian?
And I was fucking watching a little bit of Donald Trump as a time traveler last night. They were providing some pretty provocative shit. I didn't watch it all. I actually stopped it. And I was like, I've got to finish this fucking conspiracy here at a later point. It's interesting though. Even though I don't believe in a lot of shit, I'll at least entertain the idea long enough to go, that's fucking bullshit. You got me there. What's up, Cascadian?
Good, man. Just chilling. Just took a puff again. Third one of the night, so we're getting somewhere. Last night was 1, tonight's 3.
Nice.
Right. You're smoking a whole joint before you know it.
Man,
right.
Then that won't do it, and you'll have to have 2. And before you know it, you'll be smoking 2 before you smoke 2.
Smoking one to roll one. I've been there.
Gotta do that shit.
What's up, this guy 7979?
Hello,
so did I
good
get
sir.
to drop the sus?
Yeah, you can drop the cess since you're not pronouncing it right, but you're cool. I never really correct people, but it's pronounced with a K sound like Kess. But you're cool. You're cool.
Yeah, Kess. All right.
Yeah, all right. On my side, though, how am I supposed to know that until I've actually heard
I know. I've heard this my whole life, and I just let it go. Yeah, it don't hurt my feelings. But
not to mention, I butcher almost every screen name as it is.
right.
I don't know what it is, but it could be something as simple as Sam, and I would try to fuck it up somehow.
You develop a
You
stutter.
add a majestic or an awesome on the end of it or something.
Yeah, something.
Always funny.
I actually have added doctor to a couple of names. I'm like, where did the doctor come from? Now they're a doctor. They're probably stoked about that shit.
Cracks me up when I get the Canadian groan. It's like that's clearly Cascadian, but Canadian, whatever.
It's better than Caucasian.
Yeah, I've got that one too.
Good shit.
Doctor come from? Now they're a doctor.
You guys smoking down, man? I'm smoking on some Skywalker. I had pre-rolled up, pre-fashioned up, whatever. It's my after-work joint.
I think I'm gonna go grab some of this garlic smash. That wedding smashed, what is it? Smash cake. That shit fucks me up, man. I prefer the taste of the fuel side, but the fruitier side seems to put me down a little bit harder. I don't know what it is, but either way, man, they punch. They punch.
Usually it's opposite that. Usually the fruity one's not the set in the couch one.
I'm not a usual person. They're
Yeah.
smiling.
It's always that too. It's funny. Nobody's normal.
Normal would be boring. Normal's boring.
Yeah.
I always like that phrase. Who wants to be normal? Normal's boring.
DOA. What's going on, bro?
Well, one thing I'd be thankful for, I guess, at least the tattoo healed up just in time, just to fucking start doing some digging. Look at the bright sides.
That's funny. I like that, Aldridge. You got to make that a shirt. I identify as dank. If I could wear that everywhere, man.
There's so many different things anymore, man. And everywhere, even Walmart, man. You go to Walmart these days, man. There's like fucking 10 different bathrooms and fucking. It's like,
At least they know what you smell like before you even get there. They're like, I identify as dank. They're like, he smells like weed.
yeah.
And you're not even there yet.
I should get a pass for anything.
Make that a thing. Busy, man.
Looks like a couple of us had the same idea. Went and got some grub, rolled up a little bit. My wife came down with one rolled up. She's like, hey, are you hungry? I was like, yeah. So you want to smoke? Yeah. It's like, all right, I got you a peanut butter jelly sandwich. I'm going to bed.
It's all right though, man. Let's get a woman.
Yeah, she takes care of me.
Food and a pre-roll, like hell yeah. It's about one other thing that could have topped that.
And I wouldn't have expected you to come back if it was that.
Right?
Right.
And she just left. She didn't nag you about nothing. She didn't ask you for. She just left after that. Like that really fucking happened.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to pay for it.
Right? That's funny.
Life. What's up, Ty?
What's up, peeps?
What up, Tom?
My debt level's still up.
Your
What's
butt
going
level's
down?
still up.
What's going down? My checking account balance.
Sometimes.
Except on payday.
I'm working it all out, though. What's up, guys?
What's going on, bro?
So, did I hear correctly on King of Queens
Seven.
live there?
Dude,
About the
somebody was impersonating me, jumped on there and whipped out their junk. And it was little.
You know,
It was little.
it's
This is
got to
how
be
bad
somebody.
Go ahead.
It's got to be somebody that fucking kind of listens along a little bit, that has known that you're gonna fucking has said that you're gonna like reveal your face to be able to go. All right, here it is.
It's so fucked up. Luckily, I'm secure in my manhood, but they're like, I missed it. I didn't see it because I was in that chat, and then I don't know what the fuck. I walk away to water something or whatever, and then I come back and all this drama. I was like, what the fuck? And no, so that's what happened. But
Sounds like
Yeah.
something Chris Mertz would do. I don't know why, but that just sounds like. You want to see what Tao looks like? Better have.
bam, there you go.
Oh, funny.
But yeah,
Yeah,
so
that
that
fucking
happened.
happened though,
That happened.
I actually
yeah.
thought I seen you popping on the Witchy Weekends. I thought it was gonna start being a fucking thing to where that's just like, you know what I mean? Like, don't take a check from this person. I thought I heard her like, you're gonna have to show me. I thought it was gonna be like a fucking side by side for you.
Well, don't be giving this asshole, whoever it is, any ideas, Eagle. Next thing I know, I will. I'll be like banned from every live and on YouTube.
You won't even be able to show your face because you've showed your dick so many times. Shit.
That's funny as fuck.
No, and I'm like, so I tell all the chicks, I'm like, yeah, because they were like, oh man, I'm dramatized. I'm like, well, if you want to get undramatized and I want to prove myself, just send me a DM and I'll show you the real thing.
That's funny shit.
How you gentlemen doing?
What's up, Resurrection?
How you doing, bro?
Been cleaning up seeds off the floor and got those plants hung up.
Man, I told you those were gonna go everywhere.
Well, I didn't get too many yet. These were just some about stragglers, and I guess there's about 10 in there now. So I don't know what they are. So they're the random bunch. If I can't get it off, don't know which planet it comes off of. I'm just throwing in a random bunch. And I figured I found one laying in some water I had on the ground that I'd gotten on the ground. I was like, well, I might as well throw it in the water. And I looked at the rest of them and said, I guess I might as well throw them all in the water. And I had never done seeds in water, and I just seen people do it. So I threw some in. Then I came back like 2 hours later and a bunch of them were already sunk. And I was like, is that good or bad? Is that good or bad? So I had to get on and look it up. Is that good or bad? And now there's only like three still floating. I just threw another one in. So
He just keeps tossing them in like, fuck it, one more.
yeah, what the hell, man? I only got about 20 or 30,000 in there. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's probably. I hope there's not that many, but I mean, it looks like there's probably going to be 5,000. I'm guessing.
What happened? Your room gets seeded or something, or did you intentionally do those?
Oh, I intentionally seeded every plant.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I don't think you're
Indoors.
far off with the
Indoors, and
20,000.
then I had. What was that?
I don't think you're very far off with the 20,000. I think you're
Well, what the big one outside, which was, he says can go anywhere up to 75 days. I took that at 55 days too, because I got a clone off it in here. So I'm going to plant another one and pick it at 65 and then let the other one go until 75. So, boy, it's mighty sticky even at 55, man. It was looking, man.
Hey, Rez, was it
Yeah.
all the same father's pollen, or did you have a couple of dads shooting some?
What? Just that one dad that I picked out of that whole group.
There you go. I like to hear that. I mean, these people like to do their open pollinations, but I don't know.
This is the way I look at it. I mean, somebody else can use the idea. I mean, it should be something that people are already doing it anyway, but it's something that happens a lot in the animal industry, is that you get good males and you get good females, and then that is your breeding stock. And then you sell almost everything that comes out that meets standards that you test and let grow out to sea. And then you keep so many females to replace mothers that'll get too old. And that's the only ones you typically keep and grow your herd. Unless you want to exponentially grow your herd, then you keep all the females and then bring in more males. So like here, if I take and grow like Cascadian, he really likes the Salmon River. So I took the Salmon River. They looked the same. The male grew just like these two females, and but one grew a little taller than the other, but that could have been my fault. But when I test those out, he can have them now or later because it's something he's interested in. He specifically likes the way that looks and what the outcome of it could be. So for me, if I grow them out and test them, and I got outside my greenhouse area, and in here I got 2 of the areas covered. I just need to be able to do a full outside. I can do that, but I really can't do that this time of year. So
Well, let me.
if
Do you
I
got to
grow
cut
it,
it?
it grows good in all those. It's a one-off. It's a
Okay.
one-off seed that I can give you
should
to say, hey, this is going to produce. I saw it produce in these 3 environments, and it had no major problems, and it didn't harm. To me,
Right.
that's a good seed to hand off to somebody and say, smoke that. That'll grow.
Yeah. You should have saved the mail though, a cut of the mail, because then you could.
I was going to, man, but I
Then
don't.
at least you'll have something. That's.
I kind
That's
of.
hard, I know.
This is kind of my thinking behind that American one is that everybody talks about it being in competition and taking people's work, and you see everybody takes people's work and they clone it and they grow it out, even the good breeders, and then you'll see it at facility and they have a whole thing of it, and the breeder's fine with that. But so I don't ever, if I ever want to be a quote unquote legitimate breeder down the road and say I wanted to do that, I want to make sure I separate from their genetics far enough that they can't say I'm reproducing it, just flipping it. So if I take 2 of their things that are great, then I go and find the male out of that. It's going to come back out if I want the same male or come close.
Yeah, you'll be able to go through the ones that you made already and pick out a winner, a male, I'm sure.
Yeah, so out of those.
But I like having like the original, so I could say this, like this is the, if I have Amy, like the Amy Asa seeds I have the exact male and the exact mother, so it's the same exact genetics. It's not like a different plant with a different pheno possibly, or people do that. They'll lose one or the other. They'll just pop another bean and think it's going to be the same, and it won't be really at all,
Yeah.
But
well, I'm kind of thinking,
hard.
I just wanted to separate. I just wanted to make something. So any seed that comes out of that is something I took from somebody else's stuff, and it's no longer their stuff, is the way I look at it. So anything comes out of it is my stuff that I'm giving away. So it's not mine anyway.
Right. I got you.
The creator gave it to me, so it's everybody's, so I can give it out. But in this industry, there's a lot of backstabbing going on. So I figured a way to separate from myself from the backstabbing is go ahead. I didn't think this when I started, but now I'm thinking it's just go ahead and have my own, something I made that I found out of that. And I can say, hey, 2 things. If you want to make this strain and to look the same, I don't have any more. I just wand off it. But I'll show you what the female looks like. I got pictures of the female. I got pictures of the male. You can buy seeds from him, and you can cross it and look for these 2 things, and probably going to get pretty much the same thing. That's the way I look at it. Now, would you exactly? You could. I mean, I'm thinking. I don't know enough about plant genetics yet, but it sounds to me like if you pick out things that smell the same, grow the same, look the same out of those seeds, and you go, everybody's like, I need to go back through that pack to find this. Well, yeah, there's I'd like to have 5 more packs of each one of those of his stuck in the fridge.
Right.
So if I wanted to, I can say, I'm going to go look for that male again.
It'll be close, but it won't be the same, dude. That's like when you see your girlfriend and you see your girlfriend's mother, and you'll be like, yeah, that's what I could look forward to in 20 years or whatever. But it's not exactly the same. And a lot of times the kids are like, oh, he's got dad's eyes or whatever. And so it's like that, but it could be it'll be close, it won't be. And if it's good, it's going to be good. That's the other thing, I think.
Now you're making me want to get 2 packs of those seeds just so I can plant them to find the male and female again and get seeds out of that, and then compare it to the seeds out of this cross, what I think is the same. That would be an interesting comparison to go back and say, yep. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I was talking with Eagle about earlier.
Okay.
I'm working on, like I said, I'm getting ready to start creating some seeds, but I'm using Rasta Jeff's Sunkiss, I've got a pheno that I've been running for the same pheno for the last 2 years, and now I've got another male and a female. So basically what I'm trying to do is trying to hold that female's terpene profile and THC content. So I'm going to create an F2 and take that male Sunkiss and breed it to my pheno that I've kept. It should keep the same phenotypical characteristics of that plant, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I'm doing. But I also have to cross-reference with Rasta Jeff because that is his genetics, and he may have already F2'd it. So I'm not making an F2 to make as a seed for distribution. I'm making an F2 to stabilize that genetic, and then the children from that, I have to go through a pheno hunt and find those phenos that most resemble the mom and grow those out, and hopefully they're the same potency. But I've cut out a bunch of other phenos that aren't the same as the pheno that I've found that is my mom.
I want to say that the seed batches are as different as kids. I don't believe even the same mom and pops can produce the same exact seed every fucking time. They're going to be different, just like it. You're going to have about the same odds of pulling out the same 2 exact seed batches with the same DNA chain as you're going to have 2 fucking identical kids 2 in a row. 2 different inseminations.
Well,
that's going to be about
but
the
they
same
can be
odds
really
of pulling
close,
out
though.
Yeah.
They can be
The
really
interesting
close,
thing
though,
for that,
Eagle.
the interesting thing for me in that is
still different combinations.
I've been smoking weed a long time, but I still, if it gets me high and I don't want to smoke any dirt weed anymore. But if you got weed and it tastes decent and it gets me feeling something, I'm gonna smoke it. I'm not gonna say, I'm still, I haven't been far enough in to say I need to have this flavor every month. Of course, there are a couple flavors I would like to have all the time, but I mean, I'll smoke anything. So.
Hey, Red, what's up with this Salmon River, man? You guys were talking about this the other day, and I picked up this pack actually from IDK Farms here in Michigan. But
yeah.
Salmon Sap is the name, but it's Salmon River OG. I don't know if that's the same one you're talking about.
Yeah.
The 91 Chem Dog, but I don't know much about the Salmon River at all, other than
it's heavy. It's not a super high THC. It only tests at like 18 or 19.
Oh, fuck.
But he puts a warning on that one. Like he does with the moose and lobster. It has a warning on there. If you're not somebody who can handle strong weed, basically, I'm paraphrasing what he says. Be careful with this one because you can put yourself out all day. Yeah, so
Dude,
it's also anywhere from 49 days to 53 done in 3 phenos.
Damn.
Have you guys heard of the Consumption F2 by I forget who does it now. But I just saw the lineage on it. That's just the NL5 by TK by NL5 Haze. And I've been seeing a lot of TK NL5 Hazes popping up, and people are saying the shit's legit.
Fucking TK is legit.
Trying to do
So
I don't know. I don't know anything about the TK NL5 Haze. But so the NL5 Haze, though, it depends on where it came from because there's really only a couple lines that go back
the reality to be that, right?
To be that, right?
Yeah,
right.
I believe that.
I'm personally excited to hit the TK with NL5 or NL1 though. I should be getting some NL1, and
is that going to be in seed, dude? Because I've been told the NL1 is the best hash making NL, and that's from more than one person.
The way I understand the numbers of the Northern Lights is that the 1 is the more indica one, and then as it goes up, it gets more sativa.
Okay. See, I did not know that.
The Northern Lights
Very
number
true.
1 should be the
Mhm.
most indica of them, and then put that on the stretchy ass TK, and it should be fire.
Are you getting seeds or are you getting the cut of that NL1?
No, that's gonna come from seeds. I got a
All right.
buddy that made
I want to be your buddy.
they're either F2s or F3s. So I'm supposed to be getting some of those.
That sounds like it's going to be good, dude.
The other one I want to do is the TK with I got some 90s white rhino from another friend in seed, and he gave me F3s and I made F4s. So I'm going to go into the F4s and find some males to put on TK as well.
That all sounds awesome. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I got so many seeds I want to fucking pop, man.
Well, isn't the TK where wedding
Get
cake
to
came
it.
from too? Isn't like wedding cake from that lineage?
I don't know, Smiley. I don't care about these new hype ones.
I don't
Ain't
remember.
hype, man. If it's fucking fire.
Yeah, but then you got the originals. If it is wedding cake is TK by something else, you want the TK and the something else is what you want in your garden.
Said they're not
Sorry.
worth anything, so you scrapped half of my fucking pheno hunts.
Oh, yeah,
No.
that's the triangle kush with the animal mints to make wedding cake.
I thought
And what's in the animal mints?
The animal mints is fire. I can't remember what it is, but I've never been able to get my hands on it. That is Girl Scout cookies crossed to Blue Power.
that's from Sin City, ain't it? Yeah.
I think that's Seed Junkie still.
Is it?
I think
The
so.
Blue Power is Sin City's usually, but that's the trademark one, man. Anything they cross with is fire as fuck with that.
So that's what it. Okay, so it might be animal cookies with Sin Mint cookies, and the Sin Mint cookies is the Girl Scout cookies Blue Power part.
That might.
Yeah, if you break all that down, it's Durban Point. Well, yeah, I guess
That's what I want.
there's
You got it from them or whatever.
That's what I want.
there's discrepancies on what the real shit is, but I've heard it was Durban. It's Durban Poison by something. Is the cookies right? Thin Mint cookies.
Cookies is a cherry pie, Durban Poison, and what they called F1, I think, or maybe that's the old story. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stories around it, but the Durban Poison's in it. I believe you're right with the cherry pie. So, but like a special F1 Durban Poison or some shit they were claiming.
Mother of all cookies, man. We got it.
Yeah, trying to keep secrets, I think.
So then, just what do you want is to get that Durban Poison and the cherry pie in your gardens. You don't need, right?
How's that cherry pie grow?
Man,
What kind of?
See, I don't have access to all this shit either.
that cherry pie is like done in 56 days. The fan leaves go purple. The bottom third of it herms, but the nose on that thing is loud. Oh, it's loud.
I got a little vomit in my throat as soon as you said her.
Yeah.
I don't want
Did you?
Made it.
If anybody has a problem out there and I've heard about it, it's a herm. It's like it's never coming into my garden. I don't want to see it.
You just have to lift her skirt way up, is all, and just keep the top. You got to get rid of everything else because if it's not.
I like to know what my girlfriend looks like by walking up to her.
You don't have to grab it.
I'm not into what was that song by the Kinks? I'm not into that.
Lola.
Lola, I'm not into Lola.
Eagle, did you get Velvet Punch from Jack Greenstore? Because I think that has cherry pie in it. I got the Velvet Punch F2s. I got them right in my hand right now. I'm going to pop some of these. I got so many seeds. And after those worms came, dude, I'm still fucking.
Stop reminding us about that. Fuck.
Dude, it's like I have nightmares and shit.
Yeah. Every time
I gotta get over it.
The fucking thing crawling out of the seed. And like, ugh.
I gotta get back on the horse though, because they ain't popping themselves. So
that was nasty, man. Watching that bug come out of that seed.
Fuck yeah, it was. It was gross as hell.
I've seen it in person. Man, it make your skin crawl.
I think I
Right?
turned the channel. I've seen a lot of crazy stuff, but I don't want to see that coming out of my seed. You ever had one of those
Make a
bugs in
horror
your
movie.
fish?
Make a horror
I bought
movie
some
for
monkfish.
stars.
I bought some monkfish about 5, 6, 7 years ago, and it had those little bugs crawling in it. When I got home, went to put it in the pan, I'm like, what the hell? Had them worms all through the fish. I was like, oh no, no, no! Back to the store you go.
Oh, they weren't
Yeah,
friendly
Tal.
worms? What's that?
What's that?
Yeah, I do have it, Tal. I have
Yeah.
it actually just labeled on my cups as number 2. So when you said Velvet Punch, I was like, what the fuck? I had to look it
Yeah.
up. Pull the
See,
I had to pull the paper out.
that's yeah.
And you know, I had to look too, but I do have a fucking I don't know if you can fucking forget that background standing in front of that bitch.
How
I
many
do
weeks
have
training? Oh, good.
is
you have a
F2? I
whole
don't
list.
know. I'm running
How many
Twisted
weeks?
Triangle by who the fuck is that from? Deep Southern Roots, which is TK times his Twisted Miranda, which is in the garden too right now coming out.
I've
I actually
never had
forgot I had that in there. I've heard all that TK talk lately, and I'm like, man, it sounds fucking familiar. And I got looking through my shit. I'm like, I'll be damned if she is. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
can't
see
wait
my
to see
my
want
little
some
hello,
what
my
Afghani.
that's about.
my
I've never
hello.
got to grow. I've never got to grow straight Northern Lights or Afghani. The old stuff I liked, that I could get a hold of in the 80s and 90s that I knew the name of. And I've never had Chem Dog.
I got those little cards. So, like, yeah, he sent me a blank thing. It just says number 2 on it, like you're saying. So that's what I do. I get that card out, I write it on there, and put it in the baggie, so I know what the fuck
You
it
didn't
was.
get the write up.
I got.
You
He
didn't get the
emailed
right.
me it. He emailed me it. So
I thought that was kind of cool. I
yeah,
actually
the
fucking
whole
just
breakdown of
folded it
everything.
up and put it right in the book. Yeah, I was like, that's handy. I put it right in his note page right
Are
there.
you guys still growing that fingerboard?
Fingerboard. I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, that one cross on that one he gave you is Mr. Fingerboarder in Massachusetts.
I only got the one, the Velvet Punch. So, and he says it's grape tasting and gets purpled out at like day 20 of flower, no matter what. Sounds
I'm trying
interesting.
to say his name. So.
I've got the J1 he sent me.
What's up, Raptor?
That one actually. Enjoy that thing.
How's it going, everyone?
Pretty good, man. How you
Oh,
doing?
but
Pretty good. I was just getting some
I might start smoking joints.
like seedling mix that I made ready for some dragon fruit seeds that I got from when I went to visit a local organic dragon fruit farm on wasn't this last Saturday, but the Saturday before that. And I wasn't really eating all the fruit, and then all of a sudden I was like, you know what? This is obviously going to spoil. So I just kind of did like a little charcuterie board of all these different kinds of dragon fruit, all these different varieties, and just shared it with my family. And
Awesome.
yeah. So I really like this one. Actually, I liked a couple of them. So I decided to keep some seeds. I know that they're like it's just like apples. Anything can come out of it. So it's just a little fun, thing on the side. Not really expecting to get anything like any treasure out of it, but it'd be fun if it was. If I got something out of it. Just gonna use these to practice my grafting. So they're pretty easy to graft with. Just a simple V cut, some tape around that, and they're good to go. And once you graft the little seedlings onto like a little bit older rootstock, it actually speeds up the fruiting process from 5 to 7 years to like 3 years or less.
Oh,
So
that's awesome, dude.
yeah. It's a little breeding trick from the dragon fruit. Uh,
Well, they do
growers.
that in orchards a lot too. I think with like apple trees and shit and tomatoes.
Yeah. Exactly. I just said for this particular time frame, but for other fruits, that's definitely a much easier route, especially if you're, well, I should have just said breeding in general, or
Yeah.
even like cultivating. But breeding is where I really see it like speeding things up, because instead of waiting, well, in this case, basically double the time, the person that I watch on YouTube grafting dragon fruit, he did it on one of his rootstocks, and it was a much bigger rootstock than like say like 6 inches or so. It's probably like a foot or like 18 inches. And when he grafted onto that larger rootstock, he found that it fruited within 18 months. So there's obviously something going on there with having more plant mass on your rootstock. It's just maturity, and it's able to do its processes faster just because it has more tissue to work with. Any thoughts on that? Like why it would be faster than a smaller one? Like a 6 inch one would go slower than the 18 inch.
I have no thoughts. I don't know
Yeah.
about dragon fruit.
Yeah, it's just it's a horticulture question, I guess.
Well, it
I
seems
feel
like the more adult plant is already set up for a higher rate of photosynthesis. So
Yeah,
anything that
that's what I was
attaches to
thinking.
it is going to get the same benefits.
wonder if it's a hormone thing.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking,
It is a-
possibly too.
I think it's because
Yeah.
the rootstock has a higher level of cytokinin, which is the
Mm-hmm.
hormone that'll shift flowering.
That's a good point.
Because that's produced in the rootstock or in the root tips.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Thanks. It's just something that I was wondering about, and no one was like really giving any answers to. It was just like,
You,
oh, I use this bigger one. What's up, this guy?
I was just going to say you'll also have some transfer of DNA from one phenotype to the other too. So I mean, you're going to have a transfer of a few things from that.
I've been hearing that. I guess there might be a study around. I need to look around for it and read up on it because that's pretty interesting. What do you think, Cascading or Smileys, the transfer of DNA via rootstock and scions?
I don't know if that's
Hmm.
gonna. I don't know if that's gonna speed up flowering.
No, not the speed up flowering. Just
In
grafting from,
general,
yeah, grafting in general of having one rootstock of a different kind. We'll say for this instance, dragon fruit, a different variety than the one than the sign you're putting onto the rootstock.
Well, I mean, maybe. Um,
at the graft,
but
At the graft.
I
Interesting.
they
Yeah.
would be right. Would start it maybe.
If anything,
Yeah.
uh,
not. I'm not as
uh,
familiar with that, like that sort of family of plants. But
mhm.
it's something like a fruit tree
Okay, yeah. Any plant like
wouldn't because all of the cells have already established themselves. The growth has already happened, and then as the
mm,
the tree gets bigger over the years, that's like a localized thing. It's not.
Yeah, because don't they have like oranges grafted with lemons and they don't turn into half and halves, or
yeah,
they
that's my
do that,
thoughts
right?
exactly. That's
Yeah.
actually my thoughts exactly, Teo. That when you got a
And
citrus, a lemon stalk and an orange stalk, the lemon stalk is there because it's more heat tolerant and tolerant to pathogens and other things. That's why you choose that rootstock. It's able to do better in your environment than the scion would. And the scion is, for anyone that doesn't know what we're talking about, there's the rootstock, and then that's the bottom part of the plant where all the root mass will be, and a little bit of the plant tissue right above the root mass. And it's the plant tissue between the stem tissue right above the root mass, like let's say a good
Callus
couple
tissue.
inches.
You
Yeah,
might see a
callus tissue.
little. You might see a little like cellular stitching at the graft site,
Hmm.
but I don't know that that's going to infer any sort of DNA transfer.
yeah, the
Yeah,
growth
Not
is
yeah.
at
gonna-
the
Well,
tip. The new
Well,
growth
when
is at the tip where it's separated far from the other one, and the DNA would have to like go move up all the way, right?
Well,
Well, let me ask you this, because when we're doing breeding in cannabis, I'm strictly talking about breeding. We're trying to get certain DNA traits that are, say, to help fight powdery mildew and this and that. But just because that DNA trait gets into that plant doesn't ultimately make going to make that plant be a
Express.
totally different, express a totally different uh, uh, phenotype. It just be the same thing, but now it's just become pest resistant or powdery mildew resistant. So with that kind of thought, it almost seems that if you did transfer, it could be something as crazy as a tomato plant to an apple tree. If there's something that's beneficial in that DNA, like I think Russell Jeff was saying it, like if I had an amputated arm and I got a different donated arm, my blood's going to be into that arm, and there is transfer of DNA through the blood. So in the same kind of aspect, you're going to have DNA transfer, but it may not change the shape of the fruit, the color of the fruit, but maybe take on whatever DNA part that helped make it pest resistant or something, you know.
Okay, but if DNA is transferred, is it then replicated?
well, so
Is it brought on again and again? Go ahead, just a thought. Go
you
ahead,
got to
Cascade.
understand, like DNA is protected by the cells of the plant, like we protect the gold in Fort Knox. Like DNA is in the nucleus, and then inside the nucleus of the cell, which you already need special access to even get into the nucleus. The DNA is also wrapped in a way that most of it's inaccessible because it's
You
wrapped
need
in
a
Structure.
you need an RNA to something to open it up, right? Is that when they
right. There's a
duplicate?
whole
Yeah,
there's a whole
No.
process to unravel it and replicate
Smiley
it.
knows.
So like the transferring of DNA is highly guarded as far as anything goes, really. So the whole, and then cells divide. They don't necessarily like get together
Break
in a bang
apart,
have a
and
new
then
cell.
yeah,
Right.
So you're
That's
replicating the cell that was already there
yeah.
and making
That
copies of
has
it.
its own little pocket that's all protected
It's already
and not really
encoded. The DNA
exactly.
is already in the cell. So even
Yeah.
the exchange of fluid in the plant isn't going to change what DNA is being produced in the cell of the growing tip of that plant. That's why you can graft one onto an existing plant and it
Yeah.
won't like transfer and mix and have like, you know, I mean, you can't graft one on, I don't know, whatever, Bruce Banner onto GG4 and have a mix of those two on that branch. It'll be a branch of Bruce Banner and you'll have branches of GG4 because those
yes.
DNA, the coding of how that all is going to operate is already written in every cell. And those cells are just replicating. It's not a reprinting of that. There's no exchange of that. It's already in the cell that's already replicating, if that makes more sense.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's
It's
why
just
I was
a
saying.
question yeah, that I thought of like, okay,
That's why I
Well,
was
well
saying,
let's
like at the graft site, you'll have like a stitching where you'll have
mhm,
one and then the other, and the cells will like stitch together, but they won't necessarily mix in the
yeah.
point that you get mutant cells that have mixed DNA from both in the middle there.
It's like a skin graft,
Right.
I don't know. I
exactly.
saw a Twilight Zone where the guy got a donor arm from a guy in jail. And after he got the donor arm, he went like on a killing spree and everything. He wanted to kill his wife. All of a sudden, he likes drinking beer. He starts cursing. So he took on that arm, took him over.
I think that episode was called Idled Hand or something.
If
Really jack off. I feel
anything,
like somebody else was doing it too, or
like
what?
if any part of that is true, I would assume that that's a
You're throwing them off. You're
psychological
throwing them off.
issue from
So do
you
both
saying
guys feel
I
it?
have somebody else's arm. That's not going to be like There's not a hidden brain in your hand that says, "Okay, we're gonna take this one over." Like,
where is the soul in the human body?
not in your hand. I
In
mean,
your brain?
maybe it is for you, but not in your hand.
It's everywhere. It's not even in your body.
Oh shit! This is the rabbit fucking hole. Let me get a joint. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, but
you want to talk to
keep
the preacher about this subject, don't you?
Yeah, people keep bringing up, oh, this study, that study. It's like, well, bring it up.
Bring it up.
Bring it up. Let's read it. Because
Whenever
I hear about, it's the whole like, oh, bro, I heard this. And it's like, okay, well, from where?
dude, even the studies though, I don't trust them really because
What are you saying? You don't trust me, Raptor? Call me a liar?
On the whole concept of just like it. I brought it up because actually someone else brought it up it's something that I heard like literally on the Michigan Bro Show. So it's like, I wonder
about the
what
DNA
they brought up.
exchange.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was brought up like
Okay.
for 5 seconds.
Whenever I reference something, I always give the
Come
people
on,
the
we've
study.
talked about that shit on this show fucking a bunch of times. Bunch of fucking times. Jesus Christ, where you been? 5 seconds on the Bro Show. Shit, we talked, me and Pete talked about it for fucking an hour.
No. Literally, I just heard it, is what I was saying. I'm not saying I haven't heard it anywhere else.
Doesn't surprise me though. It's funny.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Not from the examples that I've seen. I haven't seen.
I don't know, but I like a salad joint, man. Every now and then is always good.
Yeah. Huh? Yes, it is. Are you a snob though? Like, I get a kind of snobby where I like, if I'm mixing a salad joint, I want to like have the front half be one and the back half be the other.
No, I'm not like that at all. No.
Your head,
another
man.
joint, Smiley.
Yeah.
What good is that?
I don't mix my fucking food on my plate either, dude. Like each food has its own.
My parents used to
together and eat it. That's fucking weird.
You know, when I was a kid, you keep all the shit separate.
What do you think happens after you eat it?
Yeah, it goes in your stomach. I'm like, I don't have taste buds in my stomach, Ma. You know what I'm saying? Sure, it all gets mixed up down there. I don't want it in my mouth like that.
My stepdad used to give me shit about that. He's like, "Why are you mixing your food?" I was like, "Because it all comes out the same."
Just helping things along.
Some things are better together. Some things you got to keep separated, man.
Freaked me out the first time I saw a guy. We got to Texas after basic training. Guy was my roommate. Same bunk. He took his eggs, threw the sunny side eggs on top of this shit on the shingle on top of the toast. It was all there, and he took the eggs and started cut everything up. I was like, "What the hell are you doing, man?" He's like, "It's better when you mix it together." I said, "That's got to be disgusting." And then I did it, and that's how I ate it almost ever since. You know, I'll eat it separate sometimes, but if I'm eating shit on the shingle or a chip beef, the eggs are going on top over easy or over light, super light, and getting chopped up because I want that yolk to run down in there. So.
Yo, have you guys gone into a New York deli? Because you go anywhere else in the country, man, it ain't the same, dude. You guys don't have you guys don't know what you're missing. That's what I'm saying.
We got a New York style deli around this town. Whatever, man.
We got New York
New York style.
That's like a French. That's like what is it? An eclair.
NYC.
That's like croissants at Dunkin' Donuts, dude.
If the only eclair you ever had is one from one here that's an American chain, you've never had an eclair. Because there should be light and fluffy and melt in your mouth, you know, not some heavy pastry.
On the other hand, the pulled pork is not, I'd rather go down south to get me some pulled pork, so.
Serious biz right there, man. You start talking about barbecue, man.
Yeah.
Back home in Tennessee.
Serious.
Say the wrong word and them fighting words.
No,
Back home in Tennessee, you pull in the store and they got a section in a lot of the stores, a lot of the grocery stores, and even the small side, already the homemade coleslaw, what type of beef you want, whether it's a thicker, whether it's a thinner, different types of slaw to go with it already. Yeah, it's like buying anything at the convenience store almost sometimes.
They'll fist fight over where they should do dry rub or a wet rub or freaking some of them
That
they
could
have
change.
contests and shit.
Yeah.
I like Memphis. I like North Carolina too, but I like Memphis style. But Memphis has, they'll do it all, but it's more of a wet style. North Carolina is more of a dry style. But in North Carolina, you can get a wet style. It's just anything that's been cooked long and slow. Somebody who knows what they're doing with the seasoning, I'll eat it. I'm not into pork, but if it's beef, I'll eat it, or chicken.
Ain't that interesting how like different parts of the country are known for different styles of food and different flavors of food? Like from where I'm from, Cincinnati, we're big into chili, and probably something you guys haven't heard unless you're from that area, but something called geta, which is pork and oats, and you make like patties out of it. And it comes out real crispy, like a pancake, and it's like really good. You put syrup on. Oh man, it's really good, really good.
Never heard of that shit.
Yeah, like you were saying, it's in Walmart right next to the stuff. I can't find it.
Cincinnati, I get PTSD. You say Cincinnati.
Food is one way to really break down like how many cultures exist in a country. So when you're trying to figure out like how many different cultures we have in this country, there's really probably like, I wouldn't say as many as we have states, but probably like 30.
As many as we have accents.
What do you call not a canned sloppy Joe, but just a regular, we call them steamers in Maryland, where it's just the beef and they're done differently, but it's like a manwich. What do you call them in Michigan? The sandwich with the ground beef in it with the sauce.
I'd have to go to
You know what a manwich is? You guys know what manwich is in Michigan?
I know what you're talking about.
Manwich is. It's a sloppy Joe mix, man.
Yeah,
all right, so you call them a sloppy. Well, in Maryland, they have a steamer, right? So I had never had anything in my head but that. And I went to my friends when I was like 18. We were on leave before we went to Germany. And he's like, "You're having steamers." I was like, "Oh, great." And I got there, they were clams. They weren't steamers. I love clams. I was fine with it, but I was like, what the frick? You told me I was having steamers. I'm talking in my head, man. I'm just, all right. I'm just, because I had not, Maryland and Tennessee, as you're young, you learn these things as you move around and get more people in your life in different situations. And I was like, what the fuck? You just, all right, everything's messed up.
I was like, what the fuck is a hoagie when I was wherever they had a sell of hoagies, we call them heroes. And then when I upstate this, even in the state of New York, upstate they call them subs, and downstate they call them heroes. Basically,
I was always wondering how sloppy Joe had to be to get a meal named after him, where you drip all over. He must have been a dirty fool, man.
So sloppy Joe and a steamer. A steamer doesn't really have much.
Doesn't have the red sauce.
It doesn't have the red sauce, and I don't even know if it has anything more than salt and pepper. I'm not sure.
They call burgers. Oh no, I'm thinking of sliders. Yeah, hamburgers, right? Is it steamers?
It's just hamburger. It's just a hamburger where they didn't put it in a patty and it's all ground up. I think there's something that keeps it. Maybe not. I've never made it. I'll eat it, but if we were having something like that, my mom had sloppy Joe mix in the manwich mix in the cupboard.
Dude, I'll never forget when I was a kid one time. I like cheese, man. I love cheese. So I had cheese sandwiches. And the one kid next to me is like, "Oh, you got a wish sandwich." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
Wish
Yeah,
it
you
had
wish
some
you had
meat.
some meat in there.
Ah.
And I was like, "No, man, I wanted all cheese, dude."
Yeah.
I
Cheese
like
and
it like
mayonnaise.
this.
Cheese and
I can
mayonnaise.
imagine a little tail.
In Cincinnati, we put coleslaw on our sloppy joes.
Well, yeah, that would be good. That's kind of like doing with pork. I've never tried that, but I would
Yeah,
enjoy
like
it. Now, is
pulled
that
pork with some slaw.
which, what kind of slaw? Is that mayonnaise slaw or is that vinegar slaw?
Oh, that's a good question.
I thought it always has both.
No, there's a
No?
mayonnaise slaw that, well, they're made vinegar in the mayonnaise slaw. Probably somebody who's a cook out there would tell me I'm wrong, but yeah, it probably is. But I mean, it's more of that type of texture, and it has the white to it. It has well, it's not really white anymore, but it
I think
has
it's
that
called a dressing.
creaminess to it. It's creamy
Yeah,
instead
creamy.
of vinegary. Vinegary one is there's no
It's
all
wet instead of
see-through.
creamy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
when I
sausages.
Translucent was the word I was looking for.
yeah when I worked at I used to be a manager for Long John Silver. The bag
Okay.
that when we mixed all of our stuff, it said dressing, coleslaw dressing, and but the vinegar, like you're saying, if it's a vinegary base, it's more wet, just
Yeah.
shiny wet instead of
Yeah.
like you're saying creamy, which is the
I like
dressing.
them both. I like them both.
Yeah.
If you do the vinegar, if you do it with the vinegar, like you shred your own cabbage and stuff and use vinegar and bacon in there, we call it hot slaw instead of coleslaw.
So,
Hey, y'all are making me hungry.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
just
the
ate.
bacon.
I just
It's
ate too.
420, isn't it? It's 420.
That peanut butter and
Just
jelly
about,
sandwich.
yeah.
Yeah, 2-minute warning.
I like the offsetting, like maple syrup on sausages. You get the.
Yeah, man.
That's what made me think of the coleslaw and the sloppy joes, kinda.
As long as it's real maple syrup, not that sugary shit they sell at the
Yeah.
store.
Yeah, it's like that barbecue food.
I remember reading a story. There was $1 million maple syrup heist in Canada. Someone stole $1 million worth of maple syrup. That's
I think
wild.
that's one
right?
of the most. I think that's one of the largest, like robberies in record.
How
And
many
think about it.
bottles of maple syrup is that?
That's what I was wondering. The guy had a big truck, right?
It's not as much as you would think, honestly.
Yeah, because that shit's expensive. The real stuff. Yeah, the real stuff.
Truckloads.
It's dense and expensive.
Yeah.
They said like I read that article. Was that something like 7 or somewhere between 7 or 11 truckloads? I think he took out of there.
Yeah, and they had them empty. They emptied them out, and then they basically just put them at the bottom, those empty ones, and then put the filled ones on top, and then no one ever checked until one day someone was actually doing their job and was checking their shit. Yeah, somebody actually did fucking inventory.
Wow.
And then they were like checking it out and looking at the no, I think it was an accountant, and he was checking everything, and then he was climbing up on he was climbing up on one, and then one I think like shifted or like something happened where it was like, this is obviously not the same weight. It's not, the maple syrup is thick. They probably put like water in there or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, see, going in and out of a plant like that, depending on you should get caught right away, because when you're if you're bringing it in or out, you're typically weighed for empty and then loaded, and then
They probably did it on off hours though. No, like
off. Well,
maybe.
Guards are always working.
This was happening for a while though.
Oh, okay.
Well, I shouldn't. I don't know what the time frame was, but they were obviously getting away with it. And
you could pull it off. Yeah, I mean, there's people could say, "Well, hey, you're 200 pounds different." It's like that could be anything.
Oh yeah, 420. We missed it by a minute.
We passed it.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Did you guys hear about the fake olive oil? Like half of the olive oil we get is all bogus. They got the olive oil mafia. Yeah, that's been.
My girlfriend was fake.
You know how you find out whether your olive oil is good or not. Right? You know how to find out, right? Stick it in the freezer.
And if it freezes, it's fake.
If it gels up hard, it's good.
Okay.
If it stays liquid, it's no good.
I don't generally cook.
Fucking
One that
antifreeze.
always blew my mind a couple years ago.
And I found it out I saw it happen.
I guess it was 10 years ago now.
10 years.
There was they did it in one night. And we're always worried, you know, the outdoor growers are always worried about rippers taking their plants. These guys stole 2,000 pounds worth of grapes from a vineyard in a night. And they did it without getting caught. The guy didn't know till the morning. But some of these vineyard guys, they'll sit in those hunting blinds in the middle of their vineyard with a rifle. And a lot of times they use Dobermans because Dobermans can run so fast. And somehow these guys, the guy either wasn't watching or didn't have his dogs out or something. These were a rare grape that they had just, like the guy that grew the vineyard had to get a permit to get the grapes imported, and it was a professional trial. So whoever stole the grapes knew what the hell they were doing. It was like an inside job kind of thing. And they stole 2,000 pounds worth of grapes in a night. That's quite a bit. You get about, you get about 20 pounds worth of, 20 pounds? Yeah, 20, 30 pounds in one of those boxes you'd see at the store that has produce in it. So they took
a lot of boxes.
Yeah. In a night. Like that had to be a team of guys.
Right.
The biggest heist I ever got away with in a night was drinking half my dad's fifth of vodka up with water. You never knew.
Yeah. I used to go to my buddy's house and the parents would mark the label, like where it was. So we just dump it out and put some water in it back up to the mark.
I read a
back
story.
up to the bar, you said?
Read a story a little while back about somebody that drank all their parents' liquor, filled it up with water, and put it back. And then they got older, they got an age, and they were at their parents' house and they were drinking. And they said, "All right, you know, you happen to have another bottle because this one's gone." And the parents went up and grabbed the bottle they refilled and gave it to him. Like they didn't know all those years.
That's classic.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of older people who have liquor in their cabinets, 4, 5, 10, 50 bottles, and they never drink out of them. They're just sitting there. Just sitting there. Old wine, old whiskey, wine too, but they'll use that for cooking. But you open some cupboards. I know some old people. You open their cupboards, and it's like, when did you buy this 25-year-old whiskey? 30 years ago. Holy shit. Can we drink that? Can we open that now? I want to drink that. I mean, come on, man. And they will. They're like, sure, yeah. I mean, it's like, I got a $55, $55, and it's nothing to them. They just have it up in the cupboard.
I was gonna say I got that same thing, Rez. There's like a fifth up in my freezer. I don't even know where the fuck it came from or whatever. I don't really drink, man. I drink my beer, but like at best, you know what I mean? Like that's it. Like
for a whiskey drinker, it's compared to like somebody who loves 69 Camaros finding one in Granny's garage that has 200 miles on it, 1,000 miles on it. It's been covered up the whole time, and she says, "Here you go, take it for a drive, or you can have it." You open up, that'd be like finding some vineyard cannabis somebody stored right. Any of the best stuff any of you have ever grown, jarred up right, and it was good storage where it could sit for a long time, and you opened it up a year later, you didn't know you had it, and it was perfect. You're like, oh my word, I forgot all about this one. Or 2 years later, or 5 years later, some of you might have done it. It's like, wow, I'm glad I found it. I'm glad I lost this. Because it gets better.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
It should get
stored
better.
Right.
Now at my level, it's not getting better stored. I gotta smoke it up quick.
Yeah, I was gonna say the long term, you better be on point with trying and all that too if you're gonna try it. But
that's what I mean.
It's a good
in the humidor.
to try though. Like, I don't know. I've never had much luck. It seems like they get over a year and I'm not. It's not, to me. It's not a better flavor. I guess.
No.
I don't know. I'd take a quarter and fucking stuff it in a jar for a year.
Well, I'm not saying I don't have the perfect dry setup yet. I was the one night where I said I was going to do the temperature and the humidity and get it all dialed in perfect. Humidor was like, well, you should just, you just sound like you're a candidate for a humidor. And I started looking up walk-in humidors. When a humidor that's set at 62 or whatever you want your weed set at the right temperature, you can set that stuff out in a bowl. You can set it, you can leave it in dishes, don't even cover it up, and walk in and out of that room, close that door behind you, and your stuff's there. I mean, so it can be in the same place where you drive, you know. So I was like, well, hell, why don't I just build a closet that's always maintains the temperature, you know, like everybody would for drying. You know, how often do you guys have to drive? You're drying all the time, right? Well, Eagle's a carpenter. If I would be building myself a walk-in big room humidor made out of the right wood, made out of the Spanish cedar or yellow pine or whatever. Yellow pine, I think, where they use that Spanish cedar just like you would inside your closet, you know, because control. I'm having to do it to try to do it with a bigger unit, so I'm not even doing the AC right now. I'm just trying to control the humidity and get my temperature in here as cold as I can. And it's hanging in my where I sleep, man. I got 3 plants hanging right through 2 feet from my head where I'm sleeping. I mean, but yeah, just walking into a closet. I mean, little tiny controls. The guy did his. I saw a couple of videos that went online. I was like, damn, that seems like the way to go. Just a little space that's always ready. I mean, it's just always prepared. It's always sealed up. It's always, and they're not sucking the air out of those. You're not exchanging the air in a humidor. There's no air exchange, so you shouldn't have any air exchange in your drying room.
Yeah,
Why
but
would you
what you're missing, Rez, is the fact that you just think that it's under the idea that the temp and humidity are all what's doing curing, and that's not the case in my understanding. That's an anaerobic process. So if you're not sealing it away from the oxygen, it's still going to oxidize. Like, just because you have humidity right, if you got it out in the room, it's still oxidizing as it's going.
Well,
the whole idea of sealing it off puts it in an anaerobic. You just totally shifted the whole environment for that too. You know what I mean?
But if you're, what if you're sucking it through a carbon? Do you still have? I didn't look to see if that guy had fresh air intake, but I mean, a cigar box doesn't have a fresh air intake. A cigar humidor does it? Does it have an air exchange with a filter? I don't know. I've never looked at one.
I don't know.
Maybe they do. They might have a charcoal filter on those back of those boxes. But my thinking, okay, yeah. So you wouldn't want to do that anyway because you couldn't leave stuff open. You would have to have it sealed whenever you hung stuff because that would change the humidity drastically. Anything you had sitting around. So you would have to have those separate, the drying process and the sitting room, like the humidor room, sitting room would have to be after it's cured, after it goes through the curing process. That's what but humidor was saying. He's like, once it's, well, he didn't tell me how far, maybe Raptor heard him that night to say how far I would have to go into it. But he said, in that guy's cigar room, and he had some that looked like some nice cigars. He just had his room. You could open the door, took a closet, had like a French door front on it, single French door panel. You could see inside. It's probably the first one that comes up on YouTube when you look up humidor rooms. And I was like, he had all his boxes, all his cigar boxes just sitting open. So I was like, once it's cured, it can just sit there open. It doesn't even have to be in a jar. So I don't know how far you have to take it.
Yeah. Smiley, once you do the cure in the jars and get it to where you want, then maybe you could leave it, but you just still don't want it open to the air. I don't know.
I got a comment on what Rez was saying. I got a thought to throw at you, actually. If you think about when you have bananas or even tomatoes and you have them on the counter, they if they're not ripe yet, it takes them a while to ripen up. Well, if you
Right.
take those fruits or vegetables and put them in a bag, they will almost ripen overnight. I can't remember the name of the gas that comes off at.
Yeah, ethylene. Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't have any air exchange while you're drying, not curing, but in the dry part, it's going to cause your trichomes and your flowers to ripen faster, especially if you're trying to go for a longer dry time. You're
Okay.
kind of that's an uphill battle. So it kind of depends on. I think it kind of depends on what you're going for, but drying is drying and curing is curing.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. I say that. That's true. Yeah.
That's
Well,
why
I'm
I
just
say like the
I'm just
curing.
hanging drying in my house right now.
Yeah, and that's why I say like the curing is an actual anaerobic process to my understanding of it, and that's
Yeah.
you hear people talk about it. There's a different effect that happens when you seal it off to the outside air and it whatever.
Dude, I
Okay.
saw something where the
Or no.
motherfuckers are putting it wet in a black plastic bag almost and
they
sealing it
don't-
up and then yeah, opening it up every once in a while. But it would get I would never ever do that. But
but
it would get the chlorophyll out more. Something happened with the chlorophyll.
they do a 50-50 dry. I've never seen an illegal operation since I've been in California, so I try to stay away from that stuff since it's legal. I don't want to go to somebody's place and they probably don't want to take me anyway, so I'm not going to ask. But they do like a 50-50 10 days. They do 50 degrees and 50% humidity for 10 days, and they throw it in a bag and it goes wherever. They throw it in a bag with big humidity packs, and that's no cure. That's what's going on to the streets, for out of here for a lot of places.
You know what I
it's
noticed?
just-
Even in mason jars, if you don't have it tight, it'll dry out, man. I had shit that dried out stupid in a mason jar. I was like, what the fuck? Why even bother with these mason jars? But it was obviously a seal wasn't sealed, and
And I found out about that because I was asking about curing. I didn't know nothing, so I figured somebody had that's been growing for a while. He's like, "What are you talking about jars?" He said, "We don't have the time for that." He said, "We're just trying to get this." He said, "We're trying to get this stuff dried into bags so we can get someplace they can do what they want with it." But we do, I guess 50-50 takes care of most of the stuff. I don't know. In 10 days, I've never tried it. So
Pretty much it. Yeah.
50-50 takes the humidity down. I mean, if you hold it 50%,
That seems pretty low to me. Actually, I don't know, but you're out in a drier environment.
I'm doing 60. I'm trying to keep my room at 60 right now.
Yeah, I
add humidity.
try to go for 60 for 14 days.
yeah, when you think about
I'm
it,
not
that's
that-
50
I'm not that
degrees will save the
What if I-
terps too.
What if I'm at
Even though
75?
it's dry and quick.
What if I'm at 72, 75 degrees? I mean, that's cold as I can get it right now.
You still don't want the humidity much below about 60.
But you
Right,
want to you'd want to look at VPD though too, like that plays the role of what you're trying to accomplish. So like the 60-60 that Cascadian's mentioning is a pretty specific vapor pressure deficit. So that's gonna determine how rapidly the moisture is gonna leave that plant material, basically.
And
So what?
It's hard to hit, I think. I mean, 50-50 would be hard to hit, I think, because the colder you run it, the harder it's going to be to hit that 50% humidity, too. So it's like, it's kind of a double-edged sword, like the 60-60. Like mine usually ends up 66 degrees, about 60% humidity, 61% humidity.
And how long do you go at that time?
A week.
A week?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, how moist do you like it when you put it in jars, or not at all, or
I'll watch
how
it.
do you guys, all of you?
Yeah, I'll go from there from that week, and then it gets put into like a Rubbermaid container until I can trim it up, and then I might take it 3 days, and then it's in a bag, a turkey bag for 3 more days maybe, and then it's gone.
Well, mine's all seeded, so does that make a difference?
Yeah, usually. I don't know about for drying or any of that, but for trying to get it.
No, I meant for dry. I mean, does that make a difference for drying?
Yeah, for the
Has
consumer.
anybody here seeded a whole crop?
I don't ever leave the seeded flowers to dry without taking the seeds out. So
You don't?
I take the seeds out as soon as it comes down.
Oh shit! I didn't do that. I guess I could do that.
And
Then I
then
would have. If I did that with tweezers, I would get all the cal because I could smoke all the trichome covered shells on the outside because they taste good when they still have the trichomes on.
well, you still and I just end up with a bunch of stuff that I have to dry in trays instead of hanging.
Oh man.
But the way that I understand the curing process is that the density of the flour has a lot to do with the burping of the jars or the air exchange of whatever you put the Rubbermaid or whatever, because the
Moisture's in the middle.
right, and you have to move a bunch of the moisture completely out of the flour, and then you have to even out the moisture that's left in the flour.
You said that perfect.
Yeah, so like I messed up this one last cure that I was doing because I didn't open it often enough, and the smell is not exactly on point, but the flowers are also a little squishier because they did let go of some of the moisture, but the moisture that was left over that I can't get out now without ruining the flour evened itself out in the flour, so I have squishier flowers than I normally would. I don't have
people. The one place I went to was preaching. That's what you want. You want it to be slightly spongy. So if you squeeze a bud, it should come back to formation. And that I rarely get for real. To tell you the truth, if you squeeze my bud, it's pretty squished.
Now,
right.
More or less.
You don't want to squish your bud and hear it crunch.
Right.
And you don't want to squish your bud and take your hand off it and see where your fingers were.
Right.
The one is too dry, the second one is too wet. And my latest run is more on the squish it doesn't crunch, but then you let go and it doesn't puff back up.
That back is good, right? Okay, yeah.
The guy, there's a part of the, I guess, opinion around in the market around me was that you should be able to break it up with your fingers. If you can't
dude.
Joint with your fingers, then it's too wet.
I beg to differ with that call. I think.
Do you start smoking before you even cure it? As soon as you're done drying, you try some?
Fuck yeah, dude. What are you kidding me, Rez? I said that. I do. Yeah, I have no patience.
This is all supposed to go to RSO, so.
The only time my plant's ever in there long enough is when I'm too busy doing other shit to chop them down, man. Otherwise, they're fucking early. I'm getting on myself though, and everything. I'm gonna start having more discipline. That's it, motherfucker.
Hey, Rez, I'm glad you just said that you were. It's all going to RSO because I was sitting here thinking while everybody's doing their opinions, depending on what I'm harvesting the plant for, really determines how low of temperature or how low of humidity. The whole keeping it cold and drying for a longer period of time and venting the room at the same time is to keep your to preserve the trichomes, not to advance and decay or mature. So if you're doing something like bubble hash, but you're going to run dry product, you still want to keep those trichomes as clear, or however you wanted to harvest it to be so clear. Or if you're doing something for another purpose, you might want a quicker drying time to make other product. So for me personally, it really depends because I do a little bit of everything, but it really I guess it kind of depends on what you can control on how you dry it at what temperatures and humidities.
Okay. So you dry at different temperatures and humidities based on what you're going to use your product for?
Correct.
Okay. So what so let's say you're doing RSO, you're wanting to do that type of product. Do you freeze dry and do yours? Do you hang dry and do yours, or do you fresh?
I wish I do fresh frozen. I wish I had a freeze dryer.
What's fresh frozen? That's just a regular freezer?
No, that's where you harvest your plant and it goes straight into the deep freeze, so that you preserve all those trichomes from any further ripening or decay until you're ready to process it.
A special type of deep freezer?
I'm sure there's supposed to be, but I just use my deep freezer.
Oh yeah.
If I was gonna do, I don't do RSO, but from what I learned going through my herbalism training, it's funny because I would go exactly the opposite route, and I would dry it out till it's crunchy, and then I would do the alcohol extraction. But
well, I guess what I mean though is like, what are you wanting for your end product? Like, if you're gonna dry it out like to a crumble, you're gonna have more amber trichomes, and your product's gonna come out a little darker. But then it's also gonna be not. Somebody correct me. I know I'm gonna be wrong, but it's gonna be a higher CBD, possibly a higher CBD or CBN. There we go.
I want the highest THC on it I can get. So.
Yeah, I would. I mean, the color of the strikes is going to kill some. It's going to come down to the genetics that you're running and harvesting it at the right time. You are going to see a little bit of degradation, maturation of the heads through the drying process. But if you plan for that in the harvest window, you can offset that change. You just have to harvest a little earlier.
Exactly.
And then dry it to a crisp, because then you're removing the water from the equation, and you're using high alcohol to extract the resins, and you're basically using the high alcohol at that point to break down the membrane of the trichome head to allow the insides out, which is what turns into your RSO. And I don't see the water in the fresh frozen being, it's not going to be beneficial. But
hey, Cascadian, did you ever hear of water curing for even other herbs? That because I knew this chick. Well, I didn't know her, but I happened upon her on Periscope, actually, to be totally honest with you. And she was a freak. She wanted to clean her shit. She didn't want to smoke it. She wanted to clean it of everything. So she did the water cure, which is she had a cooler and she put a screen, or actually it was like a barbecue grill. She put her branches in there and put a weight on the barbecue grill screen thing, and it would hold the branches underwater. Every day you change the water will turn green, and it'll pull out it'll pull out everything that's water soluble, that's nasty. So and this is like people done it before, because what essentially happens is it takes out a lot of the terps and shit. So they claim you could roll a joint, smoke it at a concert, and it'll be like a cigarette or whatever. But this chick did it because she wanted clean weed, and I'm like, do you fucking water cure your spinach you get from the supermarket before you eat it? You know, I was like, that's crazy. But anyway, people have done it and do it, and it makes it pull out a lot of the chlorophyll. So I was wondering if you ever heard of that, or if they do that with other stuff.
I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that with other herbs, and it seems kind of pointless with this one.
Yeah, I thought she was crazy. I told her, I was trying to convince her, and then she did. She tried. she did a couple that dried. She's like, yeah, they're way more smelly and tasty. So, but I don't know where she went with it. I kind of dropped off following all that bullshit.
Yeah,
I didn't want to be able to dry room, so I was trying to process. I was thinking of ways I could process everything without drying it. So.
Oh yeah, you can't do that with seeded weed though either. No, don't
I
do
know.
that with seeded weed.
That's why I started laughing, man. I was like, "Oh crap! Yeah, try that with seeded. You'd be that a mess."
Yeah, I don't see how that's gonna. I mean, you might be able to smoke it in public, but you're
or if it was, think about if you had like overnutriented shit that was fucking. It should pull out a lot of that junk too, supposedly, and make it way like less harsh, like no harshness at all when you smoke it too. Is the other thing.
Yeah, right. But if you get flavor, who cares?
If you lose all your secondary metabolites, then you're smoking just to look cool. You might as well light up a cigarette. Like,
Well, the
All right,
THC
I'll say-
stays because it's not water soluble. You know.
that, Tao.
Hey,
Oh, you know,
America
you
one,
can try it
I'll
super
be the
quick.
guinea pig.
That's the other thing.
This one that has no seeds that I chopped down early because I wanted some stuff that's more of a upper for me because I'm getting all this heavy stuff first. I'll put some of that in a jar of water tomorrow, and we'll see how it goes. You know,
See if it changes color. It should turn greenish because of it. Yeah. But yeah, Smiley. Then that's the other part of the process. Then you could quick dry it. You don't have to. You could quick dry it after that instead of like. But yeah, I would never do that. I would never do that shit.
Shit, where to go? I need one of these like this size here.
Hey,
Do you have
Tal.
to fill it up, or you got to be able to keep it underneath the water, right? So
Yeah, that's what it.
If I can fill this the whole way with water, maybe.
Yeah,
fine,
that'd be
right?
perfect. I bet. Try it out. But if it's dry, yeah, even if it's dry already, because that's what I'm saying. People have done it with like crackling, snap, crackle, pop weed, and
I'll just cut one of these
cleaned out
tops
some
off
shit.
there, shit in there. I need to smoke this anyway. So
Does anybody else wash their harvest before they dry?
mine had a shower this morning.
I have before.
Yeah, I rinse my plants with water basically
Yep.
while they're still on the thing. I think that's sufficient. But it's so true. Outdoors, you get bird shit. I had bird shit on some of my plants. That freaked me out.
I've done the bucket dunk thing before, but I didn't do it with the baking soda and the lemon juice. I just did it with water.
I do the buckets, but I do the baking soda just to, I guess in theory, if you raise the pH level of the water to a point where powdery mildew can't grow, it doesn't, which I've never had a problem. I even do it in a production grow. But yeah, we wash our buds because I mean, if you touch the top of your light, it's got a lot of crap on it, and that stuff's on your plant. And if you're outdoors, you got worse crap on it. It wouldn't hurt to have a little wash. It's not, taking off trichomes or anything like that. I feel like the lemon juice kind of would, just because the acidity of it, which is why I don't use the lemon juice, but I do use the baking soda to raise the pH level of the water.
Well, you are going to lose some trichomes that they're going to gather in the bottom of the bucket. You're going to see a sheen of oil along the top of the water if you look at it at the right angle.
What do you think that is, or what is it?
That's the inside of the trichome heads.
Oh,
basically.
Yeah, you don't want to see that at all.
So is that just the weak ones then?
Probably trivial amount though, right? Cascadian.
I mean, it depends on how vigorous or violent you get with it.
Right. I do it just for a dunk to get the dust and anything else on it, or just to get the surface wet, pretty much.
Right.
Can I take the leaves off this first, I guess?
Yeah, take the leaves off, Rez.
I'll say this: I didn't do it, and then one round I tried. I just tried it with the lemon juice, 1 cup lemon juice, 1 cup baking soda, 5-gallon bucket of water, 2 rinse buckets, and I didn't say anything to any of the patients, and I had 5 out of the 9 of them had the same fucking comment. They were like, "That is the cleanest weed I've ever smoked." And I never said anything to any of them. They didn't know what I did. They didn't anything, but that was their reply after that was their feedback from that round. Unsolicited, everything. That was just their feedback. So I've never stopped doing it ever since. And it's pain in the fucking ass, dude. I'll tell you, if I could get away with not doing it, I wouldn't. But I don't know, there's a fucking
now that you know you can't help yourself, Smiley. You're all right, dude.
So,
yeah.
I tell you what, we did it on a production grow, and we had a 9-pound hammer and the Sunkiss that I have that I've been growing for the last 2 years, and all the test results come back, no pesticides, no powdery mildew, none of that good stuff in it. Like, let's see, 9-pound hammer came out at 22% THC with 4% terps, and the Sunkiss came back with 24% THC with like 5% terps, and that's after the wash.
Even inside, you'll still get some shit on your plants, so it can
Oh
be
yeah, that's what he's saying. Yeah.
right. Yeah, it can be enlightening to wash some of your flowers sometimes just to see what gathers in the bucket.
Yeah, I had guys out at the farm saying like, "Man, this goes against everything I know." I'm like, "It's okay, it'll be all right."
Right, but like
Yeah,
like
because
powdery mildew in particular is not going to be a concern after you harvest the flowers, because
unless
that's
you got some crazy ass dense ones cascading.
well, it's only going to prefer living tissue. Um, powdery,
Okay.
powdery mildew is not going to grow on something that's dead. So you may have
But
a
it's
little bit
alive
of
for like 72 hours, like some of them claim. Even
right.
if you right.
You might have a little bit of a window there shortly after the chop where the plant's not convinced that it's dead yet, but it shouldn't come to the point where it's gonna like ruin your harvest. I mean, it shouldn't.
Right. Start. It shouldn't start.
It shouldn't.
Anyway, yeah.
So you're either gonna have powdery mildew or not have powdery mildew when you harvest, basically.
Now let me ask you guys this. Smiley, do you think you could just spray your plants semi-vigorous? I don't want to say vigorously because you'll knock off you don't think you could spray it with rinse it off with water first and then rinse it off with your lemon juice shit and then rinse it off with water again while it's still alive, and it would do the same thing? Or you think that dunk is essential, total submersion?
I think I like the total submersion just for the fact that like
You got everything.
well no, and then you're just hanging it out, dude, and it's like
Right.
the way the water's running off is a different way than like if it was straight up. Like if it's straight up, you know what I mean? The buds
go inside. Yeah, you're right. Yep. 100%.
As long as you
hang it, it's like running off, and they're fucking. It doesn't add, but an hour maybe to my hang time. I don't know. It doesn't add any time.
Right. It's not that big a thing, right?
I crank up my dehumidifier for the first 4 hours and set it at like 40% while it's dripping dry. I mean, I shake the water off of it, but while it's continued to drip, just do it at like 40% humidity for a couple hours, and then bump it up to back up to 60% and drop the temperature as low as I can get it.
Yeah, I do run the humidity lower, so I try to get as much moisture out of the room as I can for the first 24 hours. Like within 24 hours, I want to see all the little leaves fucking folded up on the bud. So
yep.
And if I see that in 24 hours, then I'll kind of start dialing the humidifier back. But up until then, I'm really hammering it, and I have a temp humidity gauge on an opposite side of the room. And even though my humidifier might shut off, it still be like a higher humidity on the other side. So I'll have to adjust my humidifier to get that. And I can tell when the buds start to really get to where I got to slow my humidifier down is when on the other side of the room that humidity isn't different anymore, because that's when I know those buds adding that moisture as much as they were. So that's kind of when I can start dialing stuff back, and that's just how I've kind of dialed my little room in and figuring it out, I guess. But
that or you can add a little moisture from a humidifier into your room.
Yeah, and I think that's the key too, man, for anybody listening, is like everybody's got their own fucking drawing space. So we're just talking about what we do, you know what I mean? Like you got to dial in what you do. And
that's cool, Rez.
Taking everybody fucking, you're gonna end up with your own process, and that's the way you fucking do it. You know what I mean?
Everyone's conditions are different.
Yep.
Yeah, but to have
Rez
a goal
lives in the
to
desert.
Look at that.
reach.
Look, can you see that? Look at the.
He's got it in water right now.
The trichome shining in the light in the water.
But yeah, Raptor. That being said, though, there is a range you want to try and hit. So no matter where you are, you want to know if you want to, if it's raining here right now.
It'll never be perfect.
Right.
Like
Some
Rez
places.
is product will never be like Smiley's product
Right.
in
No.
terms
Well,
of like if they came together, they did everything they needed to do, and then they met
Right.
up in the middle, and then they opened up the jars at the end, uh, and
It would be
compared.
different. Yeah.
Like even
But
if
with
they
different
had really close
elevations,
parameters, it would be
different
different. Like
water types, right? We got different water types for different elevations. All that probably affects it. I mean, I don't even think
Really,
about
and
it that
really,
much.
the point is you're just trying to control the differences. So, like, you don't want to have
yes,
changes in temperature and changes in humidity. Like,
Okay.
I talked about a little bit of a tweak there, trying to do it early, but that's like the first 24-hour kind of thing, you know.
Right. After that, you want
But
it
yeah, you want to
consistent
try
as
to keep
much,
it
right?
constant. So, like I just said, okay, I'm 66 degrees and 60% humidity. Well, you know, somebody might say, well, you got to be 66% humidity, but then I got to add a humidifier in that room now, or you know what I mean, or I got to run this humidifier in this room longer. That just puts me at more risk of having a problem, in my opinion. Where, like, the less you can have that shit run and just have it stay steady on its natural basis to where it's at.
Oh
Right.
no, to get that 50-50 out here, those guys run every single item to fight each other. So they're always fighting each other.
Yeah, and I just think that's, I don't know, man. You
Insane.
It does seem counterintuitive, but when you can control the atmosphere, and it also differs cultivar to cultivar, I believe, but it really it varies on the cultivar. One cultivar can take longer to dry than another, but if you can control your environment, you can control the degradation, the drying time, how fast you want to dry it for the first 24 hours or whatnot. But it's really what works best for you. If you're happy with what your finished product is, then that's what works for you. Like Smiley was saying, what works for, or Tal was saying, what works for, Rez, it may not work for Smiley in his location. But it's really, and it's really just about what you can control. But if you can't, you got to work with what you got, basically.
Yeah.
One of my questions
Right.
I wanted to ask earlier was, so say you're hanging a plant, you're a new person out there hanging a plant. This is only my second time hanging indoors after doing an indoor grow. It was totally different years ago when you grew outside. You got it dry as fast as you could. We didn't know anything. We hung it up and we let it go dry. So until we could smoke it, is what we did. We tested every day until we got to the point of going with a bowl of smoke. That's when we knew it was done. But anyway, so you hang a plant up. If you go in and you have the time, and say you have a small crop and you hung the whole plant, is if somebody goes in and checks like a branch every day or a couple times a day, they check that after they know it's been drying for a while. Is it possible to pick a plant apart based upon this small branch cracked, but the big one didn't, so I can take the small one off? Or should you go ahead and take them off? I see a lot of people doing different stuff, like because they don't have perfect environment, so they'll cut down and then they'll cut it off and then they'll let it hang on a branch for a day or two. Because I didn't know if any of you guys had that type of
People
system.
do it all different, but I like trying to cut it up into the same size portions so that they dry kind of even. I try to do that.
Okay.
I mean,
But
that's
once you go into cure, once you go into a jar, they're going to exchange dryness and moisture and equal out into the jar.
that's
And
really
same,
where
they say, yeah, I've heard in a room too, right? They say don't bring a fresh crop into where there's another crop. If you're already drying one crop and then you bring in a fresh crop and you got that down to where you want it, and then you just introduced all this new moisture into your whole grow. So I can imagine having a big operation doing it. Cascading. Sorry to cut you off, man.
you're good, man. That's just where it really comes down to the eye of the grower and knowing what you're looking for. Because I mean, we can all say, this stuff about humidities and temperatures, but our days are different too. And what it really boils down to is knowing when to go from hanging, from drying to curing. That's where the skill lies. Whatever temperature or humidity you do it at is most likely fine if you know the right window to push it to the next part of the process. If you, a lower temperature and a higher humidity is going to give you a larger window where you're less liable to fuck it up from going from drying to curing. But the more you start to tighten that, or the more that starts to differentiate, the smaller your window gets, the more precise you have to be, the more theoretically the more
potential for
skill you
problems.
have to be able to hit that window correctly.
Yeah. Like right now, I'm at 73 degrees in here. Of course, it could be 70 in there. 73 and 60% humidity, and I have that set on 60, and it's going on an awful lot. So, and it'll drop it down as low as 55 and let it come back up. It comes right back up quick though.
So, but what it really comes down to is you knowing when it's done drying.
Yo, check this out. This is from 2001. You guys probably can't even read it, can you?
No.
Green,
You're gonna have to read it.
Ready for
the lens can see.
Everybody put their face up to the cameras. It's funny.
Let's see, man. Like, damn it. I can't see that far. My glasses on.
Buds are...
All right, I'll read it anyway. It says...
Ready. The manicure buds are ready for drying at temperatures of between 80 and 90 degrees Fahrenheit. Drying approximately 3 days.
Yeah, that's what it says, and that's from 2001. So think about how far we've come. And this is from I'll show you the
you can get your
Greetings from
now.
Country Cannabis, 30 marijuana.
In the 80s and 90s, whatever the temperature was in Maryland when we cut down, because we didn't know nothing about trichomes or none of that. We would cut after the first frost because we were told and we had heard that you don't want it after the first frost is when it's going to start dying. That's when you want to get it. So let it get its first frost and then cut it. And then it would
very similar.
Area it had to dry.
It's very similar to tobacco. I mean, when we had crops in Ohio, this is about the time you harvest, and you have, you stick them all the way up in the top of the barns, and you got all those racks and everything. And it's due to the temperature of the year and the moisture that's in the air of the year, so that it dries at a certain rate. And then when it's gotten to a certain point, I never did none of the testing, but once they dried it to I don't know, let's just make up a number like 10% moisture, we bring it down and we start stripping it and put it into bundles. And at that point, it kind of heats up, but it's now kind of, I don't know how that works on that end, because it's a different product than cannabis, but somehow has halted the decarboxylation or the decay process, I guess. But it's already started its cure, because when we harvest it is usually when there's a heavy fog or a heavy morning mist, which usually coincide right with deer season. So, that's part of our job. So we go out there, we, start pulling it down while it's still kind of moist, putting it in those bundles, baling it with the baling twine.
And there's different ways in tobacco. I mean, like in Tennessee and Kentucky, is it done the same way in Ohio? Because they cut it and then it stands up outside on the stalk. I mean, they lean it right up, and some of them hang it up, but a lot of them will just make a teepee.
That's just when you harvest. That's just when you harvest. And that's kind of scary. They shouldn't be, but usually when they do that, when they're sitting there that long, it's because they harvested too soon, and now they're waiting for kind of like that morning mist and dew to come, so they can come and pick it up. Because if it's too dry already and you put it up in the barn, you're gonna have mold and rot and stuff like that. So it has to have a certain moisture to dryness ratio, pretty much like cannabis.
What you were reading out of the Smiley, were you gonna say something? Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I gotta jump out, guys. It's already 5. I was just looking down like fuck time 5, man. But it is always fun.
Damn, man.
It's a great
You're a trooper. It's good
Peace out,
talking to you again, man. Have a
Take
good
it
one.
easy, Smiley.
Get some rest.
That's it.
Hard worker. Good guy.
Tal, what you were saying in that book is a lot in line with how the herb industry grows and dries other herbs, not cannabis,
Right.
but medicinal herbs. That's part of what pissed me off. I went on a field trip through Oregon for my schooling, and we went to all these different herb schools and all these different processors and manufacturers, and we'd go to these other herb farms. Sorry, not herb schools, but we'd go to these other herb farms, and they'd put all this intention and all this hard work into growing these perfect plants, right? And then they'd harvest the herb and they'd go stuff it in a dry room that, I mean, I go in there, I start melting. It's like 95 degrees, and they're talking like they got to move this stuff out in like 3 days. And there's no particular reason for the hurry. That's just how they do it. I'm like, what's the problem? You know, why? And they didn't have an answer. So, you know, we'd go back to the we were usually staying at campgrounds. So we'd go back to the campground in the evening, this whole field trip I was on. We'd gather around the fire and everybody would talk about, you know, what they thought, right? And a bunch of the people are waxing on about how beautiful, you know, the farm was, or something that interested them. And by like the third night, because it was a week-long trip, by like the second or third night, everybody started looking at me. They were like, I want to hear what he's got to say because I know it ain't nothing nice. And every time I was always bitching about how they were drying their herb, because they would put all this hard work into growing this herb and then they would just mutilate it through the drying process. And you could walk in there and it would smell like the herb, which means you're losing
it all,
exactly.
right? You're losing it, yeah.
And I'm like, what in the hell is wrong with these people? Like, yeah, sure, the farm is beautiful, but the medicine could be so much better if you just knew what the hell you were doing. And even the teacher by the end of it was like, is he grow? I was like, that's just not how you should do this. If you're smelling it, you're losing it. Like,
right,
exactly.
You're bumping into it and you're losing it. I went in there and cut that off, and now my arm's all sticky. I'm like, well, there were a bunch of track notes I could have smoked. They're stuck to my arm now.
Every single time you touch it, every single time.
I know.
Yeah, I was watching some dude.
I licked my fingers afterward.
Mutilating his plants, showing him from out. He was outside, just like grabbing the whole thing with his whole fist. Yep, just like that, dude. I'm like, dude, no.
Squeezing it and shit.
Yeah. Look, it's pretty dense. Giving it a good squeeze. I'm like, dude.
Makes you want to punch somebody in the face, right?
No, if you want to take a smaller one and be like, okay, this is the smallest of it. Let's see if it's whatever. Yeah.
That's
okay.
Something different.
Yeah, but not like the biggest
freaking
freaking cola. Oh yeah, let's let's move it around too. Yeah, when I
see guys on Instagram doing that, man. I see guys on Instagram. I see pictures of like holding their buds. I'm thinking, I would get your bud, man, but why would I'm not gonna squeeze my bud like that.
Yeah.
I never even handle it. Yeah. I hold the stick and I use scissors. My fingers just the fan leaves, but I'm a retard because I trim it like a stupid dispensary ready bud because I want all those sugar leaves for my cookies.
That's why I like cutting it down whole plant. That way you touch as little as possible. You just have the handle at the bottom and just slowly get it out of there and then have everything ready to hang it up.
Well, I do one of these things where I'll take those sugar leaves, those little ones like off of that, and I cut them off separate in a little pile. And about tomorrow afternoon, they're nice and ready to. They're on the top of a bong going. It's like,
resin. I guess that's all right though.
Or you could take all that trim and get you a little bubble bag or a little screen and get you all them trichomes off there.
I got a little pollen box.
I'd rather have the dry sifts. I agree.
I need to learn how to do
edibles,
that.
Dude.
You can make edibles with the dry sift.
Absolutely.
That's true too with the dry sift.
I'm saying with if you do the dry sift, you don't have to have the chlorophyll in there. The chlorophyll in there. So that's why people like to use hash. Once I heard that, it made sense to me.
Right. My dry sift though, after I dry sifted, I would think there's still a little bit left on the material, and that's why I would want to put it through the coconut oil. So if I'm gonna, you know what I'm saying though?
There's a die-hard trichome hanging on, of course.
Yeah, hanging in there.
Not letting go.
The easiest way to get those is to do hash, right? It's just do a cold hash.
I just skip the hash process and put all that in the coconut oil.
That's what I do. Yeah, that's it. 4 ounces of sugar leaf in a pound, and I do the lobster. lobster pot with the water and the butter or oil. I use coconut oil all the time now. And I
That
let
recipe you gave me,
yeah.
that
Let it-
enters decarboxylated, right?
I never decarboxylated
You
even.
don't?
I put it in there for 3.5 hours, boiling water, simmering, whatever. It's and then I strain it out and then let it get cool first, because I realized you put it in there right after you pour it out and put it in the refrigerator. That's just stupid, because let it get down to room temperature, then put it in the refrigerator, and then it'll it forms the butter on top or the oil on top, and then that shit keeps me freaking 20 when I'm fucking not 20 anymore.
That's
Tell
all
you
I
what.
got. All right. You use a
Yeah,
rice cooker? Is that what you use?
No, lobster pot, just like a lobster pot on stovetop. You put in a half a gallon of water, whatever, or less, whatever, and then you put in a pound of butter or a pound of oil, whatever. And then you put in 4 ounces of sugar leaf, not freaking fan leaf, sugar leaf, and you simmer it for 3.5 hours. Strain it off. I put it through. It's not really an old bubble bag, but it's an old bubble bag. It's the same material. It's just named something different, but you put it through a strainer so that you get all the green out, and then you let it cool. Put it in the refrigerator. The butter will harden on top, or the oil will, and the next morning you pop it off. Then I flip it over. I put it back in the refrigerator to dry out, whatever. I pat it down sometimes with a paper towel. And then I weigh it out like I'm using butter in my cookie recipe, and that's how I do it. I eat a cookie a day, and it keeps you right as rain, I swear.
Do you guys decarb before you do that?
No, I don't do any decarb. And people
He
say
makes good
too.
cookies too.
Yeah,
Well, if you think about it, your process that you were
cookies.
just talking about, once you get a temperature above 220 degrees for approximately 45 minutes, it's decarbed. I would imagine it's doing it in your pressure pot or whatever.
Right, and even baking cookies. I bake cookies too. So that,
absolutely.
But I
And
think the real is, I don't know what is actually happening. It's losing a molecule of water in the decarb. I don't know, but whatever happens, it works.
I won't have
no doubt.
I won't have 4 ounces of sugar leaves. So
yeah, not if you keep putting them on top of your bowls and smoking it. You got to save it, dude. Yeah.
But what you're actually doing though is you're changing that THCA into THC by the decarboxylation process, so it becomes psychoactive.
Well, yeah, I know that, but
is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. But what is actually happening? It's some decoupling from
it's removing
the temperature. Go ahead, Cascade.
It's removing carbon dioxide.
Oh, okay.
Decarboxylation is removing
that makes sense.
a carbon dioxide molecule from the.
What do you guys do with the next leaf? The next leaf size up that it's all sticky. It's not a sugar leaf, but I mean, like these here, it's not really a sugar leaf, but it's sticky as can be.
If it's got more resin on it than a fan leaf, that's a sugar leaf.
Yeah. Some of them I chop the tips off, just like where the hand is, it has a lot of resin. I'll chip the outer parts off of some.
You can see where
just throw it in there, man. Throw it in there.
If you're doing bubble hash, I know some people don't even cut off the fan leaves. They just put the whole thing into the wash. Because if there's one trichome on there, I don't agree because you're
right.
Yeah, but they want to try and get every trichome off her.
Wow.
But to each their own,
I don't care about I mean, if I want to take it and cook it into something, I don't care about the taste. So, but I've been wanting to do something with the leaves other than.
My wife actually, she does a lot of videos on Instagram. It's pheno.evil, but I intake a lot of edibles because it helps me with my sleep and my issues that I've got. But yeah, like Tal was saying, he does that with coconut oil, but we do it with butter, and we actually separate the solids first, before we add our
ghee. Was that ghee they call it? Yeah, ghee.
Yeah, and I'll either use flour that I got from the dispensary, and I'll actually turn it into like dabs with my dab press, and then use a gram, because it's easier to measure out when you're trying to make a cut or a batch of butter,
consistent,
and be able to and be consistent with your measuring. Because when you go from, I had to explain this to my wife because she was totally confused. When you go from taking 1 gram and making 9 brownies and then you take 1 gram and go and make 6 Rice Krispie treats, the concentration is totally different. So it's not going to be 125 milligrams, 125 milligrams, because there's more in the smaller amount of pieces. But that batch, that Rice Krispie batch, doesn't call for a half a cup like the brownies does. It only calls for like 3 teaspoons. So it's actually going to be a little bit less potent. So I mean,
so
there's some math in there. Yeah, there's some math in there. But yeah, you get the oil's a good way for making like candies and stuff like that, to where butter's not so good for making like hard candies and stuff. But for baking, it's perfect. She does that same thing. She's got the video where she pulls it up and shows the water in the bottom of it, how it's separated and congealed on the top of the water.
Yeah, and that water gets dirty. That was freaked me out. That water gets dirty looking. I don't know if it's really dirt, but yeah, that water is
The
colored.
reason I was asking earlier about the
I have
decarb
to go watch this video.
was a lot of the old school like techniques that people would share was to put your butter or your oil or whatever in your slow cooker and put it on low for like however many hours. And I used to do that back in the day, but I never found it to be psychoactive. It didn't get hot enough to decarboxylate it, which left me pissed off. But here I am eating a bunch of cookies. I'd eat like 6 cookies, and I'd just be like,
feel a thing.
I'd sit up and smoke a bowl because I'm not getting anywhere. So that's why I asked. This time I tried decarboxylating the flours, and then I did a maceration of my decarboxylated flours in coconut oil for like 3 months. But it was just I just put it on the hood of my light. So it was just an extraction process. It wasn't anything warm enough that would have activated it. So that's why I decarboxylated it first.
Yeah, because they do that with the vegetable glycerin. You can just leave it in there for 3 months, and it does the same thing. It's just you don't use heat, and it's just So
that's why I was asking those.
But people say you should do it. Some people say you should decarboxylate, even the way I'm doing it. They say it does help. But I tell you what, man, the first time I made those cookies with that butter, dude, I had never been higher in my existence. It was so fucking awesome. It was like tripping out hard without any anxiety whatsoever at all. It was just there. That was my favorite. I'll never forget that day. I was laughing at shit like I was tripping. It was awesome.
Well, and everybody's cannabinoid or endocannabinoid system is different too. Like when I eat edibles, I really don't feel anything. But instead of waking up every hour on the hour throughout the night, I get a solid 6-7 hours of sleep, which is really great because that hardly ever happens. That's become like how someone just said that they have a cookie a day. I'm about the same way. I get a Rice Krispie treat or a brownie or a peanut butter covered chocolate infused something or another, and I get some solid sleep. I don't never get that kind of,
Did you ever eat one when you first woke up though? Because that's maybe when you feel it in the head. That's at different times of day. It affects you different too. Even
maybe if I didn't have one the night before, because usually when I wake up in the morning, I almost feel kind of like I have a hangover. I'm just not really a hangover. I'm just kind of spacey.
Slow.
Yeah. My brain's shut down. I got a good shutdown.
I live on coffee. If I don't have my coffee in the morning, I won't drive a vehicle, dude. I'm dangerous if I don't have coffee.
Two pots of coffee.
Me off is because I've had edibles that totally got me messed up. Somewhere, I mean, like I said, I think it was last night, I got a touchy system. So somewhere around 100 to 125 milligrams is like perfect for me. And we used to get these things called Chiba Chews. They don't sell them here anymore. But it's like a medicated Tootsie Roll. And we used to be able to get 1,000 milligram ones. And I would literally sit down and I'd cut it into 5 pieces. This little Chiba Chew, I'd cut it into 5 pieces and then I'd cut it in half. I was like, okay, each one's about 100 milligrams. I'm good. I got like 10 rides here. This is going to be a great time. And then I went to try to make my own edibles, and it was just frustrating. This is the first time I've actually decarboxylated something and then made an oil with it. So
Okay.
I'm a little excited / nervous to try it because I think I'm going to throw myself for a loop. But I'm sure you guys will see me one night just lit.
Good. I hope
yeah.
so.
Yeah, it's not like I'm going to hide when I do that, but it's not going to be anytime soon. Maybe somewhere around Christmas time, Thanksgiving time.
We'll see him on here with his head on the space bar.
Cascadian, do you process any hash, or do you?
I have screens, but I don't have a place. I don't have a dedicated space to set them up.
Mhm.
And I hate having to put something together to do something for a
Yeah.
couple hours just to take it down and put it away. So
Makeshift shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that game. So I don't really do it a lot right now, but in the future I do hope to have a place where I can make some dry sip. But I am also trying to figure out a Tootsie Roll recipe. If anybody's got any ideas, feel free to send them to me. Cascading Grown on. But yeah, I'm trying to recreate a Chiba Chew with more natural ingredients. I'm trying to do it with honey and pectin and.
It's funny you said that because my wife was saying that almost that exact same thing because we just picked up some honey and she was wanting to do some honey, infuse some honey and put that into something like a Tootsie Roll or a gummy or something.
Yeah, you can infuse honey with it.
Trying to do gummy bears too, but Tootsie Rolls are my shit. So if I can figure out a Tootsie Roll recipe, I probably won't even make gummies. What I think I'm gonna have to do is find a dirty recipe that uses like gelatin and sugar and all that junk that I don't really want to eat, but get the Tootsie Roll where I want it to be and then swap one ingredient out at a time until I can alter the recipe to where I want it to and still have the same final product.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go.
The best route, yeah.
Because that's
gonna take a while. But don't even put anything in there.
Right.
Like don't even put any. Yeah, exactly.
Just gonna make straight ones.
Don't waste material. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just testers.
Good point.
Yeah, and then give them away. My whole family likes Tootsie Rolls, so
perfect.
As long as it tastes like a Tootsie Roll, I can give it away.
And are you gonna be doing that after Christmas because you'll have that, or you'll be doing this process up to Christmas until you have that material? Right?
I'm gonna start here pretty soon. Yeah.
All right. Nice.
I also want to start the gummy bears. I'm trying to do gummy bears with the same pectin and honey and fruit juice and get away from all that stuff that my body doesn't really agree with. Or my philosophy / body doesn't really agree with.
And agar is a little pricey to be eaten.
Agar works though.
Oh yeah, that's. I mean, I was going to suggest it, but I was like, probably has something.
You just got to get it in the right spot so you don't pay an arm and a leg for it.
Yeah.
But it's also got a slightly different flavor and slightly different consistency. It makes a gummy that doesn't, like, you know how you can take a gummy bear and stretch it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Agar doesn't stretch. It'll just rip.
Yeah. It's like a gusher almost. If anyone's ever had a gusher, like it just comes apart.
Yeah, it'll just
you can kind of get it to spread, but it comes apart. Like not, it's much different than a gummy bear. So what was what's a gummy bear normally made out of? And then what are you thinking about?
It's
like,
usually a gelatin. Like a lot of those things are made with gelatin, which comes from the bones of the cattle industry.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, and hair too, right? And hide.
That is
gelatin. Is that what we're talking about?
Is that gelatin?
I think the hair part is
Jello.
they put it on a slab of concrete and just let it from whatever it does. I think
I don't remember.
when I heard about that shit, it freaked me out. Yeah.
I know it comes from the bones, the bone marrow, though.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember
Okay.
if from the hide or not.
Yeah, I've heard the hide and like all that other stuff as well.
Google
but
that shit, right?
I
As
don't.
far as I know, the people that worked at the tannery that lived near me that I knew, they didn't eat Jello.
Good enough
Because
answer
all
right there. They did not eat
the
Jello.
hides would sit around, and then they'd get scraped off, and that was sold to make Jello.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, so
I'd
Yeah,
rather
That's
use
what
pectin.
that's where natural anthrax comes from, the hides and skins of freaking animals, if you didn't know.
well, that was only a 20 miles from there. 25 is where they made the. You know, that's funny you say that. Anthrax, the plant in Maryland is
Oh,
only the
okay.
base is only 25 miles from the. I
Wow.
didn't finish my whole from the tannery, so. Where the guy who did that is where he worked at was in he lived about 15 miles from me probably. You know the guy that the John Malvo, the shooter, and the guy when they were having the shootings.
Yeah, that was the kid in the back of the car, right?
Yeah.
They're shooting at
They were on the rest stop on this side of the highway, and I was sleeping at the rest stop on the other side of the highway. That day when they got him at a rest area. He was coming north into our county, out of Frederick County. He was coming into Washington County, and he was stopped they got him at the rest stop on the way in, and I was sleeping on the way on the other side. That was crazy. That was
wild.
Yeah,
All right,
man. What
boys.
year was that? 2007. Yeah, 2007.
I'm gonna crash, man. It's just about 5:30 here.
going to
I don't know how I got
But
on that
yeah,
subject.
this was a good one. A good talk, man.
Nice
I don't know.
man.
Peace
Yeah,
out,
about-
Eagle.
Always, man. Peace out, man.
So
I'm about to get out of here as well. My wife's upstairs by herself in bed.
Uh-oh.
it's always fucking.
Yeah.
It's always
Hey,
good
Tom.
talking shit with fucking Eagle. Peace out, Eagle.
Take it easy, everyone.
He's
Later,
probably
man.
watering.
Great interview.
Yeah, that
Talk
was
to
a
you
good
again
one,
soon,
dude.
brother.
Yeah, man.
So
Mr. Tracker.
Cascadian, why only dry sift, or is that just the first thing that you're going to be going into?
It's the least processed. You're literally just knocking
Yeah.
it off the plant. You're not putting it in a solvent. You're not drying it. You're not whatever. It's just the least amount of processing, which is something I'm trying to do in all aspects of my life. Is
Simple.
keep things as wholesome as they should be, and not over process things.
I like it. So you take it right from drying right to dry sift?
I would still cure it
Okay.
and then make dry sift out of it.
How long does the cure take for you? I know it depends on the size of the buds and the thickness of the bud.
Somewhere around 3 weeks.
Burping how many times a day?
It's more in the beginning and less at the end. I mean, it's once a day in the beginning and once every 2 or 3 days towards the end. I mean,
Do you use hygrometers in each container? No.
No, I've fucked it up so many times. It's just I can look at it, touch it, smell it, and know kind of where I'm at.
Well, I know what I did. The stuff I'm smoking right here, the stuff I said the other night, I just call it weed. It was the mess up. It was a thicker branch that should have had longer, even though the thinners snapped. It was their whole hanging plant. I didn't know that just because I was like, and I did it, and I was like, no, it's probably. I was like, no, I'll get it, but I didn't separate it from the other small branches. So I didn't, and I opened them up more, and I knew I could have been okay if I'd have been like oh shit, I cut it down and let it set in the jar, but let it set open or on a table. But I learned that one. I was like, okay, if it doesn't snap, you don't do anything.
This is a charging cord for a phone.
Yeah.
And I'm usually testing branches that are about as thick as this cord is, to see if they snap. But then I'm always testing, 3, 4, 5 of the branches when I test them. And then if it's not ready, obviously you can't test that same branch in the same spot.
Right.
So I'll start the first time I test. I hang them in. My plants are so small the way that I'm growing right now that if anything, I'll separate the plant into 2 or 3 pieces. Sometimes I can hang them whole. But then you have the branches coming off of the main stem. And I always start farther from the main stem when I'm testing it. And then the second time I tested it, if I have to test that same branch because I just literally don't have enough branches to move around, I'll test closer to the main stalk to see if I'm closer to the dry where I want to be, and as opposed to doing it the other way, starting by the stalk and moving out. Because once you create those fractures, you're creating new dry locations where there's an exchange.
Yeah.
Tripod.
So you say you start from the outside, from the thinner, from where the shoulder is. So if the shoulder's hanging down,
I'll start closer to where the flowers are hanging because the plant's hanging upside down.
Yeah.
So I'll start closer to where the flowers are on the first attempt to snap them, and then the second attempt I'll move up closer to where the shoulders join the main stalk.
Working your way towards the back, well, be the bottom of the plant, right?
Right, the backbone of the plant, the main stalks. Okay. There's usually one main stalk, and then all of the flowers coming off of that in the way that I hang it.
Okay.
So I'm always working.
You know how I got mine? I got 4.
Yeah.
I have a little. It's interesting because so when there's 4 like this, it makes it kind of, and then you got this with all the ones you're talking about. The size of that cord are the ones off of it. So I'm not even going to check because it's so big. I mean, it's going to be the last. I mean, I'm thinking maybe 2 or 3 days, and then take them off of that, and then put them on. I got one of those hanging things. I bought one of those hangers.
If you got the branch, sometimes, I mean, you don't even have to snap it. You can just see if it still bends. And if it still bends, you're nowhere near close.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you don't have to sabotage the structure of the stem to find out in the early part.
All right. The longer I can leave them on the big branches, probably the better, right?
Oh,
yeah.
way better. It tastes so much better.
Yeah, perfect. I'll probably show you guys tomorrow night. I won't go in there tonight, but I took those nettings. You know how you buy those the nettings with the multi-tiered. You know, the 22 foot and the 3 foot. I bought the 2-footer so I could put it in there. Instead of clipping them together, I ran wire. I ran just the tying stuff for tying plants. Threw it this way and made it and hung it underneath, and then hung the plant above it. And put the wire up through the main stalk. That way it's hanging over top of it. So if it drops any seeds, it drops on that netting, you know. So I just took them apart. I didn't hang it as, you hang them in multi-tiers. I just took one tier and then took the other tier and made its own hanger and took another. So I just have 2 of them up right now. It's interesting. It was a last minute decision. I was like, I got to catch these seeds somehow. I don't want them all to be random.
Yeah, I don't even leave the flowers. When I seed something, I take it down, I strip it all off, and I pop all the seeds out, and then
dry it.
And then I'll separate the seeds from the flowers, and then I dry the flowers out. And for those, I usually use those flowers for edible sort of things, or it's like making hash. It's perfect for that sort of stuff. I have before. There's an exception to every rule, but I try not to put myself in a place where when I do a seed run, I'm then reliant on that flower for smoke, because it's harsh stuff, man. So I try to use it for edible sort of something. Sometimes, I mean, I'm not above just mulching it, honestly. I've done that before. That's what I did with I did a cherry bomb open pollination, and by the time I was done with it, I looked at what was left, and this is mulch, and I just mulched it. I kept a couple bowls to smoke and taste it, and then I mulched probably 95% of it.
Oh, it's definitely. I can look at the plants and go, well, that one there is not going to have a lot left on certain buds, but that one over there, wow, it's going to have a lot of meat left. Just by the way it's gapping and the way you can see the seeds. I mean, the other ones you can see them, but there's still a lot of bulk. Maybe the whole insides of seeds too. I don't know. I mean, is that how it works? The whole insides of seeds too.
Yeah, it depends on how thoroughly seeded the flower is, and then sometimes if you seed a flower really heavily, it'll actually quit pushing out an abundance of new sites. It doesn't make new bracts. It doesn't. It just starts to like ripen up the seeds that you made, and you don't get a bunch more new flower. You just get what's there. And that's what happened on the cherry bomb. Is I flowered it, I pollinated it so hard that it didn't make more flower. It was just like, well, I've got all these seeds I got to ripen. I can't afford flower. I can't afford to make more flower as a plant. So I ended up with small flowers completely full of seed, and each one of those seeds comes wrapped in like a it's like a sheet.
What do they call it? If somebody here knows.
There's a layer of material between it's a layer of material between that and then the bract that actually has the trichomes on it. There's this extra layer, and that shit is harsh.
Yeah.
So by the time I pulled all the seeds out and I looked at it, was like a third of the chaff and then 2/3 of the bracts, and I was like, I'm not smoking that.
That's why if I start picking the seeds out, I'll pick the seed out and I'll leave that shell with all those trichomes with that nasty tasting thing and smoke them both. I compensate. One tastes really good, and the other one tastes kind of bad. So when you smoke them together, it tastes okay, but not great. This is the way I look at it.
Right.
If you leave those two together.
It depends on how heavily seeded the bud is, though, because I've lightly seeded, and then it's like, okay, this is worth it. But heavily seeded is, you couldn't pay me. I'd rather be sober.
Well, I can definitely tell now that you said that one plant back here where I know I took the male real good across the top of it before I got rid of it. That's the one that's the thinnest of all, and it didn't grow. That's the one that didn't really get any more length to it. It just, whatever it was, it was. It just, that one, it went yellow first. But I'm telling you what, you talk about, those things are crystal white, man. Two of those side by side, man. Everything's like, they're looking good, man. I'm like, all right, I gotta stop leaning into these things. I got trichomes. I gotta have this sticky all over my arms.
Yeah, Cascadian. That was the first time I've ever heard someone successfully describe to me, or just describe in general, what is like the issue there. Like there's a chaff, like Resin was saying, and regardless of how crystally it is, there's chaff. So I totally see what you're saying. Hash or edible material.
Yeah, that's why I said, what's that called?
But you're processing it, Res. So
is that the bracts? Is that what that is? The thing on the outside, is that the
green part with all the trichomes on it is a bract.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you get the bract, and then it's the chaff, and then the seed. So that's the big problem. They say when you do coffee, when you do your own green beans, going to and which I can do. I wanted to do in my popcorn popper. You do green coffee beans. You want to separate the chaff. So if you do a small amount for starters, you do it in an air popper, and you do it outside, and then all the chaff gets blown out the popper, and you keep the beans. So I guess it's kind of the same thing. Interesting.
Raptor, have you made any seeds yet? Is that something you're into yet?
Not on purpose. That has happened once, where, oh man, I can't remember who was it. The strawberry starburst got seeded, and oh my gosh, like that stuff was so good. Even if it like seeded itself, uh, I kind of want to pop it just to see, like, just I'm curious now because it was so fucking delicious. I
Wow.
was like, hey, well, I mean, if it's good, it's good, and I already got it. Whatever. If I'm ever in a bind or someone that I wouldn't, I would rather pay for someone. Like if someone really needed it, like one of my friends, I would just be like, I'd rather just pay for some good ones for you and just know that you're gonna be okay. But if it's just
You
me, like,
haven't grown it yet,
fuck it,
so you haven't grown it.
Yeah, yeah. But I have been interested. There's a couple seeds that I have that are interesting, like PH Nerd. He used to be a part of Ocean Grown, and he has this. I bought this limited edition pack from him called Cherry Juice, and he was in the. Ah man, I don't know what branch that he was in, but he was on a tank crew, and he said whenever they changed that they fueled up, it smelled like fuel and cherries. And he was like, "This is spot on. This literally takes me there." So I'm interested to grow that out. I was just kind of waiting to have all my tissue culture stuff. That's actually on the way, so I'm super excited about that. And I want to get that down and just in case, do aseptic. For that's what I wanted to do with the subcoal seeds. But luckily, I mean, now that I know Eagle and some other weed nerds, they've all told me that they would help me out no matter what. So that I feel a lot more comfortable with the TGA. I should probably get that stuff right now. But yeah, I mean that maybe those bumper seeds that I accidentally made, I should just practice on those. And maybe I should just uh, do, whenever I have a male, just save that. And then not just to use on a clone female and just get some more seeds to practice on because that's what I really want to like get going. But the only way to really actually practice with that is to use older seeds to see the actual viability. But it's a proven practice. You just need to increase or decrease hormones depending on what you're dealing with. So yeah, that's how I was planning to breed if I do, because if I do, I have I would love to get some old seeds in the library. And then I have a friend that's off he has an Afghani, so he's pretty cool with his stuff. So I got a feeling if I just asked, I would be pretty interested in that just to get some as old genetics as I can. But again, it's just alleged. I need to check it. And then I can't say I've ever had anything pure because how the fuck would I know back then?
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as
Even then,
breeding
I
though,
mean, I go by the Durban poison I smoked, and I've had some since. I
hmm.
think out here, but it was
When
so
did you
far.
have Durban first?
Probably in the '90s. Probably I would say in the '90s. And then I had some when I was
When
out
was the
after I
last
got out
time you
here
had it though? The most recent, I should say.
in the last 2 years,
Okay.
and I could tell there was a familiarity, but I do so far apart that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I
See.
didn't want the one in the beginning. But who who says I can remember what I tasted in the '90s? I might. I mean, if some of that's, I think some of that's there because I still get it senses. Like I can get by one of these. This one plant I had, I got up against it, a while back, and I was like, "Holy shit!" I said, "That smells exactly like that plant that I didn't get to smoke in 1987 because the guy found it, chopped it down on his property. It smelled just like that, you know."
Mm.
And I was like, I said, so I guess you can remember it, you know. I guess maybe that was because I didn't get to smoke it. I remembered it so much, washed it, watered it every day, and ran up off the road, and up the hill, and then the
Yeah,
last day to
something
go
about
get
when
it.
you take care of a plant, and especially when you put in a little more effort, like in the earlier
Um,
days. Yeah.
but now maybe I did. I'm glad I didn't get to smoke because it was pure miracle grow.
Mm.
It was pure miracle grow.
Yeah, it's a good thing. Well, it was a job, right? Yeah.
But it's funny when I got caught. I used to always go up in a red light. Had my flashlight still from the army. You put it right on. You hang it. I had a clip on the back, and you put it right on your shirt. And it has different lens colors. You put your red lens in. It runs straight to your plant. You never go side to side. You go wherever you're going, and nobody you can only see. And I got to the plant. We got out of the truck, and I took my buddy with me, and I didn't put the red lens on. I still had the white lens on. I said, "Oh, don't worry about it." And I went up there, and I got to the plant, and I was looking at it, and I turned like this, and the owner of the property is like 200 feet away, but a straight shot where he could see the light. He had a burn pile going, a 55
Mm.
gallon barrel. He was standing at it, and he saw me, and I saw him at that far away, and I went, "Oh shit, I hope he didn't see me," and I left. And I came back the next day, and we got out, and as soon as I crested this ridge, because I used to park my truck on the side of the road, and just park it, and run up a embankment like this steep. You have a 45, steeper than a 45, sprint up it for 15 feet, then it leveled off a little bit. It kind of shot up at an angle for about 200 feet. And as soon as I crested it, I looked up and I was like, "It's gone." My buddy's like, "Oh, you can't tell. We're not so far away. You can't tell it's gone." I'm like, "Dude, I've been coming here every day for this long." I said, "It's gone." He's like, "No way." And we got up there, and it was just a junk truck, man. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh man." I was like, "I wonder who took it." And I had to narrow it down, and I tried to track it down. I went up to the door after about 3 days, and because I was like, "I'm gonna kick the shit out of so and so," because he's the only other person that would have took it or could have took it. And so I knocked on the door. I said, "Hey, excuse me, by the way, I have to ask you." She said, "Did Bob find a pot plant?" I said, "Yeah, he found it." I said, "What did he do with it?" He said he burned it. And I was like, "Okay." She's like, "You shouldn't do that. It shouldn't be growing pot on the property." I was like, "I know." I said, "I won't do it again." I said, "But I want to. You were my last option before I went and kicked somebody's ass, just because I had an attitude." I said, "I figured I'd come ask my most vulnerable." I didn't say that, but I'm like, "This is my most vulnerable person. I can take a chance so I can wipe it out of my mind, because I wanted to wipe it away. You don't want the thought of someone of your friends having been the one who did it, So there's only two people that could have took it, and the owner. So I was like, I better ask the owner. And she was like, "Yeah, he burned it." So another neighbor about, I don't know, 10, 15 years later, I was living on the property on the farm, and I ran into him in the barn. He's like, "Oh, he said, "That was your pot plant." He said, "Oh man," he said, "that stuff was good." He said, "Yeah." He said, "We smoked it." He said, "No." He said, but it stunk up the whole valley at night." He said he shoved it in that fire. He put it in that burn pile, man. He went up there and found it, put it in that burn pile at night, and it just stunk up the whole valley. I'm like, and it was beautiful, man. It was like, I couldn't reach the top, so it was about 9 feet, man. And it was just like, oh, that stinky Northern Lights piney smell, 1987, and it was just, it was good stuff. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know how I
Yeah.
went down that
That's
rabbit trail. But those stories, right, where the one you lost.
The one that got away.
yeah.
The
You're
one you
saying,
got
Justin?
away. And
Yeah.
now I
The
live in
one
a
that got
place.
away. Yeah.
Now I live in a place that has 30 high-tech
Big
security cameras
fish.
plus whatever I put up. It's like, what the hell? I got my neighborhood watch. I got neighborhood watch for my weed. Because I got other neighbors who are like, you gonna give me some when you're done? I was like, yeah, I'll give you some. Stuff that's outside. I said, I'll give you a little bit, man. So you know what? They're gonna be watching out for it because they want some. What are you smoking on, Raptor?
I left it unmarked, but I'm pretty sure it's the Double Dragon. Yeah, so I liked it. It was an interesting grow. One of the plants actually became fasciated, and that just
Became what?
really fasciated. However, it's said, but it's just a mutation of the flower.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll grow really differently. So it was just interesting to observe, and it only affected the main cola. Like I did top it, but the it made a dominant cola even after I did that. Like one just shot up on its own and made itself dominant, even when I topped it. So that was something interesting uh, to just watch. And I called it because it was the double dragon, and that happened. I called it the Hydra. You know, I was like, okay, this is fun. Like, cool. Uh, yeah, yeah, but I liked it. Uh, it maybe it's just because I'm switching it up from the Apollo, from smoking up the Apollo all the time. But yeah, yeah, I can totally see where Pete's coming from when he was saying he likes it and how the indigenous people there use it. It's not an in the couch. It's a let's get up and I got shit to do. And like I love this for daytime. But yeah, I've just been trying to like gauge it. Like I know it's nighttime, but yeah, this is probably what was helping me out last night. Stay up.
Well, that's what I learned on that one plant. I mean, for me, I broke that one off earlier, and did I finish that up, or that's what I'm finishing up? That it's heavy, man. It's got that London pound cake and something else in it. But I broke that off early. It came off early, 2 weeks sticky like this one I just picked. You know, of course, it didn't fill out as much and everything, but man, it was once it was done, it was like it nails you. But 2 weeks early, it was like, it was up. It was you were like, okay, what do I got to do? I got to do something here. I got to get. And you're like, why the hell am I so busy? I'm like, oh shit, that stuff freaking didn't put me down. It picked me up. I was like, oh, I want more of that. So
Isn't
that
it
one that I think,
cool how fast it happens? Like
yeah,
you wait basically 3 months for all of the process to happen, and then it's within that 2 weeks
yeah.
that everything finishes up.
Well, I might have just picked that
Everything
one
comes
20
together.
days early. I might have just did 20 or 19 or 20 days early on this one outside. I cut that one big one outside down. So I'd have something that with no seeds. And so it's hanging, and I'm like, it's so sticky. I'm just like, he said it's a 70/30, and it's already the high side of racy on it anyway. So I'm figuring, oh shit, this sticky this early because they were all, it's going to be super racy. I'm like, it's hazy. That was what, when I started, the first time I went to a legal grow in 2017 with my brother in Colorado, that wasn't the first one I ever went into. That's the first one where I really could identify and started to identify. And I was like, I don't want nothing with haze in it. At that point in my life, I just didn't want nothing with haze because I didn't have any tolerance. I didn't have anything in my system. So if I smoked a super silver haze, I was going to be like bouncing off the walls, and I didn't want to be bouncing off the walls. I didn't, want to have to be on, just so wired that you're just like,
Yeah.
No, it's no fun. It's no fun to get. And at that point, I didn't know maybe CBD would level it off. I heard somebody say it a couple months ago. CBD helps level that off.
Yeah,
Or maybe.
and there's dosages too.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're you just go for so long with it not being like, oh, this is an herb and it
Yeah.
has an effect. It's
Yeah.
just like, no, we're just smoking some weed, man. Like I'm totally been that guy. It's like, no. I never even I should say I never even considered that it's having like a medicinal effect.
Yeah.
But there's a reason I kept coming back. I mean, all I use it for a couple different reasons. I have some anxiety issues, sleeping issues. The anxiety is not helping that out either. And yeah, I got some aches and pains from falling down, uh, playing sports. So yeah, that's mainly why I use it medicinally. I was talking with Rasta Bob actually, and he brought up a really interesting like comparison, saying how yeah, you can have it at, with cannabis. You can use it recreationally, but it does have a medicinal effect. And so his comparison was garlic. Okay, you cook with garlic, you enjoy it, you enjoy the flavor from the cooking, but no matter what, you're getting a medicinal effect.
Yeah.
Sometimes more if it's raw than you cooking it, but you're still getting medicinal effect. So he said that, and I was just like, man, that's the best comparison that I've ever heard. I haven't heard a better one yet. And
Yeah,
yeah, this was a
it,
couple days.
it's like that with all culinary herbs. Really, they all have a
Hmm.
medicinal aspect to them. But they happen to taste good. A lot of herbs. Honestly, I've tried over somewhere around 300 different herbs, and the culinary ones are culinary because they taste good. A lot of them taste like shit. um,
I don't know if you want to be eating straight saffron. That
now
probably wouldn't be.
we did them in we made teas, so we didn't actually get to try saffron due to its price.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah.
I worked at one kitchen one time back in the 80s, and the owner had a bottle up on the counter. And when I first started working there, I asked about it. He said, "It's this, and we don't ever use it. It's expensive, so don't use it on anything." And it just sat there for the year and a half I worked there on and off, and it never got used. And I'm just like, you just bought it to look at it or just to tell people, "Ooh, I got some saffron in the kitchen." Like use the shit, man.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for the novelty of it all. What really, the one that I don't really like the most is using gold on
Using what?
using gold on food.
Gold.
Gold. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
We have
they
gold.
have it super flat.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
It's just. I mean, you literally shit it out. So
Yeah. It's exactly just like uh,
Goldschlager, right? That's gold flake. That's the only thing with
yeah,
gold I
you're
think
right.
I've ever
You're right.
Goldschlager.
Goldschlager. I have had, you know what? I am ashamed to say it, but I have had Goldschlager.
I've
Well,
had
I
it.
don't drink
No,
Goldschlager
that's the
anymore.
thing. But like I saw a burger covered in that. And I'm just oh my
Uh,
gosh.
Gold.
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
the
a bit
medicinal
much.
effect of eating gold? Nothing, is it?
Nothing happens to you. You
It's
just
inert.
literally shit it. Yeah, you shit it
That's
out.
real true. Yeah.
Somebody's gonna be out metal detector. Look at this.
In 1,000 years or whatever, maybe. I mean, not that long.
Yeah.
Not my lifetime.
I thought it's interesting. I threw those seeds in the water, and I don't know if there was 3 or 4 or 5 that I had
Mm.
because
Oh,
I
are
threw
you
all the
testing them
random.
out?
I just all the
Are
randoms
those
that
the
were
new
laying
ones?
around, all the
Oh,
randoms,
okay, sorry.
and because I found a couple on the floor in the tent that were laying in water. I just spilled. It's like, oh,
That's
they're
still
already
a good
wet.
test. This is still a good. You should
So
save some if you find some more random ones, and
yeah,
then use those to test the viability.
well, that's what I'm going to grow these. I mean, whatever I did, I can put them all
Oh, I know.
outside.
I'm just saying you can get a good rough idea of
Yeah,
like how
viable
viable
they
they are.
are.
But yeah,
Well,
but yeah,
the thing about
doesn't
it is,
matter. You were
they
saying
all.
sorry
I
about that.
stirred them up, and they literally all doesn't matter whether they're above the water or on the bottom. They all cling together. You stir them up, they all. It was like they were on top, and the water was still, and they were finding each other. It was like, shoo. I guess it's the
Yeah.
different polarity, the magnetics with the electricity, whatever's put on. It was so cool how they all came together. I was like, look at them. They want to be back together again.
When they're floating, it's a surface tension trick, and when they've sunk, it's a current thing.
What's that there?
It wasn't
The
coming up, but I
seeds?
guess I could try. Yeah, it's the dragon fruit seeds, and
Oh,
Oh,
okay, cool.
it's purple because the dragon fruit has that magenta.
I wonder if you could dye with that color. That's a really pretty color, but I wonder what would. Sometimes the colors
I'm guessing
change.
pink. Yeah, like a light pink.
Yeah,
But I mean, hopefully,
sometimes the
it's
color will
darker.
change when it dries, though, and you won't get that exact color. You'll get like a oxidized version of it, so it might not
Oh,
be
that's
so
a good
pretty.
point.
But if you could capture that, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, yeah, I'll let you know because there's some that have that tint, but they don't really have that a flavor. But this one was good. It's he didn't mark it, but my best guess, not knowing at all, Haley's Comet from the shape and
Oh,
the size of the bracts.
those ones
Yeah,
are
that
bigger, aren't they?
yeah,
Than the,
those are the bigger ones. Yeah, that I sliced up a bunch for my family, and then I was like, this is my wedge. Had a
nice.
little bit. I'm like, no, no, no. Well, I actually just with a toothpick, I just picked it out, and then once they were out, I just ate it. I was like, oh, it's worth it to me, like because I had a little nibble, and I was just like, yeah, this is nice. Another one that I really it was really small, and I'm pretty darn sure that it's the sugar dragon, and that one has like a 22, 23 bricks. I didn't test it, but when people tested it, and it's the same color, like super dark red, like almost black. But it's very small. So yeah, I'll see what I can get out of that. I already have all of these. I already have a Haley's Comet, Sugar Dragon, all that stuff. But it's just fun to test it out, and you might even get a new breed because I'm gonna be messing around with it, see how it works, having fun with it, and enjoy the whole gardening aspect and combining it with horticulture with the background.
If a seed sinks in 2 hours, is that good?
Yeah, I mean, it should sink within like a couple of minutes, 10 minutes.
Couple minutes?
Yeah, yeah. But I
Oh, okay.
mean, if it's filling up, if it sprouts, it sprouts, right? I've had floaters that have sprouted on me.
Really?
So yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's up to you. It's why
No,
not?
I didn't know. How
Why
long
not?
you got?
You could.
How long do you let them sit on the bottom once they to soak them?
I do a 24-hour soak, but I like. I've been thinking more paper towels. What about you,
I like
Cassidy? Do
paper.
you just go straight to? Do you sow to soil? Straight to soil?
Well, I mean, usually I'm working with dried seed, but the idea is for
Oh,
the seed to sink, and then you put it in. Um, I usually use like a cotton washcloth because I don't want to use the paper
the
towel.
bleached paper towel. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have some. I typically sow everything straight in soil and just wait. Whatever comes up, comes up. Whatever doesn't. I
Mm.
like the surprise. The element of, oh, you bought me a gift. I don't know what it is. Now I got to wait to open it up. It's that kind of anticipation of you're getting something, but you don't know what it is. That's why I like Sex and the Seeds. It's like, oh shit. Um, I'm waiting for the one where plant 20 seeds and 20 males come up, and I go, oh shit, that's the one I'm waiting for. But I'm just going to throw these in ones that root rides that I tried to do some clones in that died that are old now and I've rinsed out. I'm just going to throw these in those to get a second use out of them,
So Cascadian, you mentioned for the drying of the seeds. How
Oh,
long
yeah,
would
dry.
that process take?
I usually, well, like I was saying, I take them out of the plant when I chop the plant down. And then from there, I give them 4 to 6 weeks, at least 30 days.
In the fridge?
No, I just leave them in a container on the shelf in the grow, just chilling. And they kind of dry out and sort of cure, but it's not really a cure. And then from there, I'll put them in whatever container that I'm going to put them in. Usually, right now, it's a plastic bag because I have a bunch of them, but I'm going to move to some sort of a different system eventually. But what I'm getting at is I'll put some of them in there, seal it up or close it up, put the lid on it, whatever it is. And then every couple of hours, I'll come back and I'll check the container to see if there's moisture. Because you don't want them to still be giving off moisture. If they're still giving off moisture, dump them out, leave them for another week. If after, I usually go a couple of days, partly because I'm lazy, partly because I'm scared and I want to be extra sure. But if after a couple of days being sealed in that sort of an environment, if they're not giving off any moisture in the container, then they're good to bag up and put away.
That's wild that I did so many different techniques, because I watch a lot of videos but I want to hear from people who are doing it that I know. I've gotten to know. But the one guy was like, I've found that throw them in a brown paper bag and leave them in the freezer for 4 months. That has worked the best for me to get the best germination rate. I was like, wow, that's okay. But I guess that could be okay. I mean, I did that accidentally because I just got, like you said, you do something, I get lazy about it. And I separated 3 different seeds out of those for those peppers. And the one on top, none of them germinated. But the 2 underneath, then they were just sitting in coffee filters. Coffee filter, and then another coffee filter on top with the name written, and then the one with the seeds. But the one on top didn't have anything else on top of it except for one with the name on it. It didn't have another one sitting on top of it. The other ones below germinated, but the one on top. So I don't know, maybe cannabis seeds, I wouldn't feel too safe just throwing them in a brown paper bag for 4 months and leaving them in the freezer. I wouldn't feel safe. When he said that, I was like, okay, that goes kind of contrary to most things I've said, so I got to ask some questions. But yeah, that seems like setting them out, but yeah. Because, I've gotten bag seed, I know it wasn't, fresh off the plant. That seed had been around for a while. We grew it, and a plant came out of it, and we got a good plant. So, there's a lot of factors. Of course, it wasn't super dry weed. It was still good weed. It has still been kept fairly, if the word be marketable. It didn't turn into brown weed yet, turn into dirt weed. But it's been around. Somebody passed it from this hand to that hand to this hand over months or whatever, or sometime that year, and it's still good seed in it. So those guys aren't taking the time. So I don't know. I guess all seeds have a different. I like all seeds have a different time frame, I guess. But I like what you were talking about earlier about making it more natural, so there's less. Each thing has less effort input going in and coming out of it. Like if you want to harvest something, coming out of it. Like that one person, the person who can take the plant, hang it up with the fan leaves on it, and turn it into what they like. Well, they got the easiest job on the planet.
Yeah.
Because they don't not going through all this stuff that everybody else is going through. They've learned to do something where they like it like that. The next person might say, "You're crazy. I can never do that." And the next guy just takes the fan leaves off, and then he likes everything after that. The next person, because I don't think I'll ever get to the place where my personal weed will look like what you'll buy at the store. I'm never gonna, and I appreciate everybody out there who does. I mean, but I'm just never for my own smoke. I'm never gonna trim it, unless I put
I
it in
think
one of
it's
those bags.
just, I think you totally can. It's just a matter of knowing your environment and knowing what equipment you have and how to work with everything. But I totally see what you're saying. The desert is hard. That's a rough one.
Well, I mean, to
Uh,
get it like that, looking like that, I would have to use a tool. I would put it in some kind of tumbler, or I would use that bag or
oh, you
trim
mean for trimming?
for trimming. Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I
So
thought you mean quality. I'm like, what?
no, it's not
No, no,
quality.
no,
No, I
no.
mean,
Yeah,
no, I can
I
get
was like,
quality
what,
good.
Res? Right.
No, I can get the
I
quality.
would feel
This quality
confident on
right
your
here is
first
good.
try
Yeah, this
that you
quality here
could
is
do that.
good. No, the actual trimming. I don't think I'll ever trim it down that far because I like unless
Oh man, what
like
a waste of time. Well, plus I like the way some people are putting it. You're basically protecting your buds.
I
When
like
you
the
leave
little
that
external
on,
motor.
when you leave a little on, it's just who cares? Just buck it off. Buck it off when you want it. And
Now, does
then have
that trim bag? Does anybody have one of those on here? No.
uh
I was
no,
curious. I was
I
curious.
let it go dry. And then with my like scissors, I don't even open up my scissors. I just move the leaf and it comes right off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I have it over a turkey tray. You could use something more permanent, but I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
reuse this one and then
Trim
I
bin.
clean it. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like something I use reusable trays to actually cook, but I bought that just specifically so if I needed to get rid of it, I could get rid of it. But yeah,
I like those
you could
trays.
use you could just use a cooking tray as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure you might even have one. Uh, but
Well, I'd like to have a stack of those screens. I'd like to have the wood framed in. Like I've seen those guys with with
oh
the
yeah,
screens. I'd
speaking of
like to be
screens,
going like
Cascadian,
this, like
you
this.
said you have some screens. What sizes do you are
I
you
have. I don't remember the microns right now, but they're like 3 foot by 2 foot aluminum framed silk
You can
screens.
you can buy all silk. They're just silk screens, huh?
I don't remember the microns right now though. I have there's either 2 or 3 of them. Um, now that you say that, I'm gonna have to figure out where I bought them from. I've since lost the bookmark. I have the
What's the top two to get? What's the top two sizes the first have?
no, that's what he can't remember.
right. So
The
I
size
bought
of the screen.
I bought the one. Shit, I can't even remember right now.
Does anybody out there in chat have a trim bin? What's a trim bin have on it? Raptor, you can look that up. You guys have got computers in front of you. What size screen is in a trim bin? I need to get my laptop set up.
I don't remember, man.
I
I bought
refuse.
a screen that's gonna just hold all of the chaff, basically. I bought one of the biggest screens, and then I bought one of the littlest screens. But I don't, for the life of me right now, I can't remember the micron sizes. So I'm trying to look up in my notes
Res,
here.
it's 150.
150.
microns
Okay.
for
See, I
people
don't understand
listening.
how well. I don't understand. I haven't even tried to figure all that one out yet. So
Oh, microns. Isn't it the lower the micron, the smaller the screen?
The smaller the hole.
The smaller the hole, sorry. So the smaller the exactly the square.
and
So
you said
there's
that's
like grids.
250.
There's all these little squares.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
They're each.
that
Okay. So 250. That you said they had a 250
that's a
on
big
that.
one. That's the you're letting more through, basically.
Yeah. Okay. I think trim makes replacement smaller, maybe. I hope
Oh,
so.
well, I'm looking at the replacement screen.
Oh, that's the replacement.
Yeah.
Is there another size? Do they have a second size? I don't know. I was just, for me first. I mean, that's where I would start. But I mean, I like this kind of. I've seen the kind of screens you're talking about. I didn't know they were silk screens. I didn't know. Did not realize that because I
Essentially.
like it frame. Oh,
Let me grab my notes really fast. I think I still have it in my notes. It's one of those pieces of paper I just never throw away, you know.
Sure.
So let me go look really fast.
Hey, Eagle, can you let us
yeah, because then you just stack
share
them up.
screen?
You just stack them up, and it just falls from one to the next.
Yeah, yeah. So, Rez, you a good example for you and some other people in chat if they have never seen that is oh my gosh.
Like a six
Is
stackable screen.
yeah,
Oh
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Man, that's gonna bug me. I just had a good channel for you guys. It's pretty well known. He's up in Canada.
Canada,
Yeah.
eh?
When I remember, I'll send it to you.
Sweet.
Yeah, but he was doing exactly that. And then he would take that um he would take all the material that he worked out and then he would actually press with that.
I
So
knew I
that's
did.
why he was doing it.
Press with that.
So my top screen is a 250 micron, and my bottom
Mhm.
screen is a 75 micron.
And how many do you have?
Two.
Just two? So you
Yeah.
go from a 250 and 75.
Right. So all the plant material will stay above the 250. All of the sift will fall through and land on the 75. Anything that goes through the 75 goes into edibles.
Edibles. Wow. Oh, yeah, because that's your highest grade, right? You want your highest grade in your edibles?
Well, it's just all the small
Cleanest.
heads, and it's going to be any sort of decontaminant. Um, so what I'm catching on the 75,
What do you make into hash?
I get dry sift on the 75 screen.
Okay.
Uh,
He's not making hash. He's
so
taking the dry sift material and he's just using that to process.
Oh, okay, I got you.
so on the 75 screen would be whatever is normally collected on like a 70, 73. Some of that's going to fall through. Some of that's going to get, depending on how picky you are. But a lot of people rave about the 90 micron heads. Those are going to stay on the 75. And any sort of larger heads that would be caught on a 120. You can even find some on a 160 depending on the variety that you're working with. So all of the 160, 120, 90, and 70-ish are going to land on the 75.
Happy 420, everyone.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so
And
that's
then
cool.
all of the 40, 45, 20, 25 heads are all going to go through with any contaminant. And those are the small pieces that I don't have the patience to card out anyway. And that's all going to go into edibles. I'm not going to take the time. I'm not that big of a snob about hash. I don't smoke a lot of hash. So if I'm going to smoke hash, it's going to be something between that 75 160 range, and I don't really
Oh,
care.
okay.
I'm not a
What's the typical size that most people use?
Well, like if you use bubble bags, you'll have like 8 bags. So you'll have like St. Bernard said in chat, you'll have the 160, the 90, the 73, the 40, the 25, and you
Wow.
pull each bag. And I'm not that much of a hash snob to care about having all the different grades separated. So that's why I just have two cans. Because I'm not that big of a hash head, so it doesn't really matter to me.
I just can't do it on seeded wheat. Unless I want to go ahead and ruin all the seeds.
I mean, it wouldn't ruin the seeds. It would just all be caught on top, and then you just
No, I mean,
take them out.
no, I
But
was
yeah,
thinking going. Can't you do like ice hash with fresh stuff that's never been dried? Can't you take the trichomes off a plant when
I've
it's
never done
not?
it.
Yeah.
You could, but that's a really long day to harvest the plant and make the hash. I mean, that's a lot of work. They just freeze it
Most
because
people just harvest, throw it in the freezer, then make hash at their leisure.
right.
There you
That's a
go.
lot. That's a lot of work, man.
So if I
Especially
took a branch of this and had seeds in it and threw it in the freezer, the seeds are still going to be good, right? How long do I need to leave it in the
No,
freezer?
seeds aren't going to be any good.
The seeds won't be any good.
Good.
So if I pick the seeds out and then I throw it in,
Yeah, you'd be
how long?
better out drying it, crumbling it up, and then washing it.
I was thinking, I was watching the night you were using your machine and figuring it out for the first time. You guys were doing all that. I was wondering when you were going to chime in about hash.
Yeah. I guess we were egging them on. Huh? But
Hash equals.
You would have to. I mean, if it's seeded bud, you'd have to harvest it. You'd have to de-leaf it, harvest it, take the seeds out, which for me right there, I'm not even getting all that done in a day. And then freeze it. But once it's frozen, it's going to be held in stasis until you take it back out. So you could freeze it for 3 days or 3 months. It's not really going to care. And then, as Eagle said, take it out at your leisure and turn it into fresh frozen bubble hash, basically.
I like trying things on a small scale. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how small of a batch you can do with something like that in front of you with different techniques, because I would gladly take,
Those bags usually fit in a 5-gallon bucket. Not that you're going to have a 5-gallon bucket full, but I wouldn't waste my time with less than.
You can get 1-gallon bags.
Oh, can you?
Yeah.
I don't think I'd waste my time with less than an ounce.
Okay.
yeah, because what's the return on that? Like the max you could get out of bubble.
I want to say it's
about
like
an eighth to a quarter. It's good hash or good bud.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I'd definitely appreciate that because I'm a hash lover, man. I haven't bought any since I've been here, but I would love to have a.
Hey man, if that's your jam, do that. Like Cascadian's just saying, like he gets with the least amount of work, he gets the most beneficial.
Okay.
Like the most benefits, because I imagine it doesn't like. I'm the same way.
Okay for them, right?
That's why I like the that I could just vape, and I don't even have to have a lighter next to me. That's why I don't even like smoking outside.
You turn yours into vapes. You turn your stuff into vape.
Yeah. It's the term is already been vaped material, and then I found out through talking with Eric, he was like, "Yeah, you could it's decarbed. It's already decarbed. You just throw that on a cracker with peanut butter, and then that would be it. Like, and that fat would be a carrier. Would help out even more."
Like if you threw like 30 grams in and you made bubble hash from it, you could probably expect somewhere between. I mean, like true amateur first time run, because a lot of it depends on the strain too. But I would imagine you would get somewhere between maybe like 2.5 and 3 grams of hash. If you had a strain that really threw down the hash and you knew what you were doing, you might see more than that. But a couple of grams on 30 grams of flour is probably about right. So however far, 2.5, 3 grams of hash is going to get you, then you have to determine, is that worth the effort to go through washing the ounce?
And then you were gonna use your material for
No, I'm just saying. I'm
HSO.
saying 2 to 3. You only get 2 to 3 grams of hash, really, off an ounce.
Off of any old regular ass ounce, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
With any old regular ass hash maker, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I would think somebody that's really got a refined technique might get less than that, because they might be more finicky, more picky. They might not agitate the material as much. They might only want the creme de la creme, the best of the best. They might throw out a bunch of that other that the amateur might hold on to. But if you had a really hash producing, like that's what that plant is put here for, you might see more than that. There's variance in everything. But on average, I would just, a couple grams out of 30 grams.
Wow. And what were you, Eagle? You were saying you like 7 grams. What was he talking about? Was that 7 grams on an ounce? He was saying.
Well, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
Oh,
he knows what he's doing, and he has the
And he's probably using the right plant.
yeah.
right plant, the right temperature. I'm sure it's
Seven
he had the
grams.
temperature set well.
7 grams of hash should go a long way.
I wouldn't expect to step up to the plate your first time, crank that thing back, and knock out 7 grams of hash, though. Like, you gotta know what you're doing and have the right plant.
Yeah. But if I'm saying it's possible, that's one of those things I look at and go, that I would do that.
And then is your top grade really somebody else's farmer grade?
Yeah. Well, I think if I was going to make hash at this point, I would be looking for a hash plant. Right now I'm not making hash out of this, but I would be willing to sift some of it just so I can have keef. I like keef, man. Just give me the keef. I'll take the keef.
Yeah,
I'll take
sprinkle it on a bowl.
I'll take the 250 because I kind of like in a trim bin. Because sitting in this chair, any chair that sits in that trim bin, I would sit here and just, because I can't do a lot of it anyway, so I'm just gonna sit here, and that 250 would be my stuff I batter on top I put on top of the bowl. I love keef, man. But you can take little keef and put it between your fingers and press really hard for a long enough period of time and open it up, and you'll have yourself a piece of hash. A piece of.
It's essentially, keef is essentially poor man's dry sift. It's really what it is. But you press it.
You press right between your fingers. You get just not a lot of it. It changes. And I was like, first time I saw that, I was like, check that out. It actually changed colors, changed texture right in the middle of my fingers. It became more gooey to drop on top of the bowl. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I saw a guy do it with an iron. I was like, what? I watched Frenchie do it with a hot bottle. I was like, oh, I want to try that. I want a big bottle. He had that sift. You watch that video, he did that. He did that with that warm bottle.
That's
like that technique.
That's what you get. That's what you're really buying if you were getting pure import from Afghanistan or something like that back in the day.
That's what I smoked back then. Yeah.
That's what it is. It's just pressed sift.
Just press sift. So if I do a trim bin and I take that Is that the sift I want, the 250? I can just do that 250 with a hot bottle at the right temp.
Theoretically, yeah, it's going to be some farmer grade though, because your 250 is still going to have a lot of plant material in it.
So what size do I want? I want the 70. I want the 70 for that.
Want
The
both.
70 or the 45 is what you're going to catch your medicine on. So your medicine's on top of it, and then
Okay.
you do something above it to keep all the plant matter out.
Okay.
So like a 160,
Okay.
but I have a 250. So,
All right.
but you can also kind of pair the micron size of the upper one with how hard you work the material. Like my 250, I'm just knocking it around. I'm not pushing it on the screen at all. I'm not
Okay.
trying to push it, smash it through the screen. I'm just kicking it around like a soccer ball and letting what falls through fall through.
Yeah.
If you had a 160, you could be a little more rougher than that, but not much. And then anything that falls through the bottom screen is going to be micro contaminant, which is plant matter that got squished up and broke off and fell all the way through,
Okay.
and smaller heads, because there's the 25 and the 40, 45. There's heads at those levels too, which is why I just designate all that to edibles, because I don't necessarily want to lose anything, but I don't want to put in a whole hell of a lot of effort either, because I'm not a hash snob, I'm a flower snob. So it just depends on who you are and what you like and what floats your boat. But you do
No,
need
I just wanted. What I was just wondering for me doing a small batch. If once the next size below the 250 of the trim bin, it would be the 75. I mean, the 160 in between, and then a 75.
You could. I don't know if trim bins have the sizes like that, but
They have a 100. I think they have a 100 replacement or something like that.
But if you had screens, then yeah,
screens. Okay.
you would want like a 160, and if you just wanted two screens, I'd go with like a 160 and something between a 45 and a 70.
Yeah, because I'm not necessarily want to make up big batches, but if I could, do it with a hot bottle, or I'm not going to go buy an iron. I just do a hot water bottle, and for whatever temperature he was doing it at, I think it was like 180, something like that. He had a bottle in that wine bottle, 160, 180. Just rolling it back and forth on that. I was like, wow, check that out. Watch that color change.
I mean,
I was like, that's my kind of technique, man. Being a musician, it's because it kind of gets that timing. You still get to use your timing and feel about, and your feel and stuff like that.
you're still gonna want. I mean, you're still gonna want a couple of grams of hash to even make it worth a water bottle.
Yeah.
Or fold it up in parchment paper, just press it between your hands. You'll get the same thing.
Oh, parchment paper. I haven't seen that technique yet.
Or maybe it's wax paper. It's one of the two papers. It won't stick to. But then you just press it between your hands, and it's the same thing as a warm water bottle. And then when you peel your hands apart, you have the paper and unfold it, and it's pressed in the middle. You could probably like rosin paper for that. You could probably do it with rosin paper and just squish it between your hands.
Okay. For small amounts, yeah.
Yeah, you wouldn't even need a hot water bottle. You could do that, in the field. You could do that fishing or hunting or whatever.
So what is the why is that becoming so popular? Does it even work more effectively, the hot water method? Or is it just because there's more heat evenly being distributed?
You're good.
Water has a high thermal capacity. So when you warm it up, it's going to stay a consistent temperature for a decent amount of time, and it's going to let you do the process properly.
If you go on Frenchie's IG, he probably still has it there, but he just had that hot bottle inside of a towel. And I was watching when I saw him. I was like, this turns me on, man, because this is like something anybody can have. Heat the water up, temperature of the water. He said, if you take too long, you're going to need more. But he went through the whole process. He said, this is how simple it is. If you want to do this, just simple, man. I was like, simple is my kind of way. I want to, it just changed colors, man. I was like, he was saying, this is the old style. This is the old school. This is the old technique. And I was like,
I wouldn't say it's the old school, but
well, he was describing that one anyway. Like that.
It's the same principle as old school, but it's not as labor intensive, really. You don't have to physically press it.
Okay.
I'm sure a lot of that stuff was either physically pressed or pressed with like a lever with some sort of system. So it just takes the labor out of it by being able to roll a warm water bottle over it. Because it's kind of like working under a vacuum. Nice.
What's up there? What you got there, man?
So like when you
Showing
work
a
under a
picture of his
vacuum,
hash, the different grades. See how it's separated? These are different grades of hash. So Eagle, if you want to chime in and say what micron each is.
Not really.
Nah. Nah.
I'm working.
It's hash.
Ready? He's probably
my
not ready
hash.
for bed, man. It's coming up on 7:00 on the East Coast.
Looks good, man. Yeah. You want to get some rest? We can meet up
I'm working.
Thursday?
You guys are doing all this. You guys
You're
can
still
keep
working.
on doing this all you want. Ain't affecting me.
I'm just hanging out, man. I like this information, man. I like the simple ways.
Yeah, a little bit of hash talk, a little bit of
but like what I was saying, like when you're using a vacuum lowers the boiling point of things. In the same sort of concept, using a warm water bottle is going to lower the amount of labor needed because the warm is going to do some of the work for you. In the same essence that a vacuum does some of the work for the boiling point by lowering it. Okay. So it takes less energy to bring things to a boil. It's going to take less energy using a hot water bottle to make things congeal and to make that process happen. So that's where the warmth of the water bottle comes in. Is it makes the work easier.
Now, do you think the stuff like that stuff? Now, I can actually say this. It seemed like it had more fiber, and it's the stuff coming out of that was considered black Afghani hash or the blonde Lebanon that we got back in the 80s in Germany, which was pretty firsthand stuff. You were getting. It seemed fibrous. So that means they were probably using more of a thicker, the higher number. They're probably using the higher number, right? Because it's more fiber. It was resinous. You broke it apart, it came apart. But certain ones, like the black opiated, seemed to be more on a gummier. When you pulled it apart, it had more, a larger. I don't know how to say it. The texture when you broke it apart was like a large, like bread. If you broke a piece of bread apart, one bread has all kinds of air pockets in it, and then another bread is like there's nothing. It's just solid, and that's more like the finer, I guess. And and other stuff has more fiber. And so you break it apart, but it's just not the same. It's a little bit different. Burns different. So I was just curious about that. There's different styles.
The way that I've ever seen like Afghan producers do hash is usually on some sort of like a tarp, basically.
Yeah.
And then a bag, and they literally take like a 6-foot stick or 6-foot branch of a plant, and they stuff it in this bag, and one guy holds the bag shut, and another guy beats the hell out of the bag with a stick, and it flies everywhere on this tarp underneath it.
Oh.
And that is essentially the
Wow.
pre-press. They would gather it up from the tarp when they're done, and then press it into what you would see it, what you would be given as hash. So
Like
it
a
all
burlap sack almost.
it comes down to like how thoroughly are they going to beat it,
Yeah.
and what is the micron size on the bag that they stuff it in.
Yeah.
And because the harder you hit it, the more you hit it, the more you're going to push contaminant through that bag. So it's kind of like the quality versus greed sort of quantity thing. If you put it in there and you hit it just a couple times kind of lightly, you're going to get really nice high grade hash. But if you put it in there and you beat the shit out of it like it owes you money for 10 minutes, you might get a lot of it off the plant, but you're going to get a lot of what you didn't want as well.
I got you. Well, the thing about it is that you kept saying contamination. It didn't sink in first, but contamination is anything except for a clear trichome head.
Right. Mostly, it's mostly going to be small plant matter.
Okay.
Mostly. That's what most of the contamination is
right.
Minuscule pieces of plant matter.
I mean, I really didn't appreciate until this plant here, the one I told you guys about a couple weeks ago, when I put my hand down in it and my hair came out all sticky. I really didn't appreciate the not touching a plant, because out in the nature, growing in the backyard, you wouldn't go out there and do all this stuff to your plant all the time. You just look at it and go, when you got to be done. That's all you'd ever do. You wouldn't really do a lot of stuff to it. But now it's like, oh shit, man, you could take off. I just took off 3 bong hits on my arm hair. I just took off all that shit. It's relative, I mean, I make it relative. It's like, no, I don't want to take that off. I want to smoke it later. I'm like, I don't want it on my hair, even though it feels good. Anyway, so what's the different sizes, Eagle? Did he tell us already? Did you guys?
No, he said he didn't really feel like it. He's busy working.
Basically,
like,
it's hash.
Yeah, I got you.
I would guess that the left side on this front tray, the left side, that chunkier stuff.
It's better grade. Yeah.
I was gonna guess it was poorer grade.
Oh, okay. Oh.
The darker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the lighter, the better.
That more crumbly stuff towards the right, I would think is higher grade. Because contaminant make the trichomes stick together in clumps like that, and then as you take the contaminant out, it becomes finer like sand, and it gets more consistent.
Well, to me, the stuff on the right looks just a hair darker than the blonde Lebanon hash we used to get. Just a hair darker. Yeah, and that was my favorite. That stuff was just, I don't know. Who knows what was in that, man? That stuff was just tasted good. And that was all it was like, but you could never get flour. We couldn't get flour. All you could get was hash. And then people got sick of smoking hash. And I'm like, I don't care. I'll smoke it. But it would be nice to have some flour. I never thought about it, They started making some of the guys who were like California guys, they were like, oh, man, we want flour. We don't want none of that hash. We want flour. I'm like, I didn't know. I just wanted to smoke something. I just wanted to smoke something that got me feeling that way.
You can almost tell better on that back tray, because that left side is you can see the little chunks that there's a pile, and then you can see the little pieces out around it. Where the right side almost looks like somebody dropped cocoa powder on the paper.
Wow.
It's a lot finer, and the finer it is because you've removed the contaminant, so the trichomes have less to stick to, and they settle more densely on the parchment paper, where when you have those pieces of contaminant or leaf matter, the trichomes will kind of conglomerate onto those and make little like balls.
Well, gentlemen, I think I'm going to jump off here.
All right,
It's been a
man.
pleasure. Thank you
Yeah.
all very much. Thank you, Eagle, Raptor, Cascadian. You gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I always appreciate your insight and input from your experience. So, thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining us.
Seeing you, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I'm tapping out myself.
I'm fading too. I was trying to make it for another 10 minutes here, but
Yeah, I was trying to make it for the 4 o'clock.
yeah,
But,
but
it's
it's
all
pretty
good.
good.
Tired is tired.
Yeah, yeah. And I
So,
actually finished my bowl today, so
hmm,
I'm feeling that as well. You know, the sleepy that comes with that.
that's good, man. Did you get like what you got at the dispensary?
That's the
Was
end of
it
it. That's the
that's the end
last
of
of it
it?
right here.
Yeah, yeah. Was it what was it again?
It's some dosey dos.
Tostitos. Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
kind of indica heavy, cookie light stuff. It's not panic inducing or anything. I bought it, on
Knowing,
purpose, knowing I was going
yeah.
through all this.
That's what I was trying to get at. I was like, what works for you? Because I
It's
don't think I've ever heard. I mean,
it's
I know you like the cookies and you like the fruity pebbles, but I wasn't sure what exactly worked for you. So to hear you got something, I was like, oh, okay. So you
when
must
I
know
when I get
what.
back on it really good, cookies is kind of like borderline lame, but because it works for like 30 minutes, 45 minutes,
Yeah,
smoke
exactly.
again, and it doesn't ever really take me there. But when I'm trying to get back on the horse, it's uh it's a good introduction because it doesn't have any panic or anxiety inducing qualities to it. It's got a decent flavor. And then if you do happen to take yourself for too much of a ride, the ride's not very long. It's not a 4-hour haze where you're strapped in like it's a roller coaster and the operator walked away. Like um so it's I've learned that cookies are good to like reintroduce yourself to the plant when you've taken a
Mhm.
break because it's very controllable. You have a lot of finesse about it instead of traumatizing yourself by trying to reintroduce cannabis into your life, So
Yeah, yeah. To hear some stories about people having like an edible, like there was a reporter that overdid it. That just pisses me off. And then she's like,
yeah,
oh, it's everyone else's fault but mine.
she went on like an 8-hour ride in her hotel room and ended up crying. And yeah, I remember that story.
Yeah, yeah. It's unfortunate for and then they had to write about it. It's like, oh, I had such a shitty experience. Like, yeah, because you made shit decisions. Maybe you
Yeah,
should write more about the decision. But yeah, it's it's sad to see that, but obviously we're talking about it because we know, hey, that's bullshit. But yeah, it's it's always sad to hear. Like I remember always whenever I would go to a party, there would always be one. Oh yeah, just had my first edible. It's like, yeah, how much of it did you have? It's like how many bites? It's like bites.
right. I ate
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
thing, dude. And their
It's
face
like
is
yeah,
white. You're like, oh,
and it's like, oh, did you come with a friend because you might need them?
you're not
Yeah.
driving, are you?
Oh man, yeah, yeah. My friend Traptor has made that mistake, and I've watched him go down. Or just like had to ask like the friends that were with him, like, no, you're driving, or else
Man,
we're staying, or we're going off a cliff or somewhere.
I
Because
did
we were,
that. I did that with dabs one day, man. Oh, my buddies came over and we were celebrating something. I don't even remember what it was. he brought his concentrates, he brought his rig, he brought his butane lighter torch thing, and there's probably 3, 4, 5 of us, 4 or 5 of us, and he sits down, he fires it up, and like, okay, cool, dabbing's not really my thing, but I got a tolerance, I should be okay. Um, he's like, all right, here, and he helped me with it. I just held it and hit it, and he did the whole swirl with the dab tool, and I just hit it. And the first one, I went from like normal to like, it was so funny looking back. I went to like Mike Tyson status because I have injuries. That all went away. I was like, man, I'm on top of the world. Like, I could do anything right now. I could do whatever I wanted, right? And then I went through that about 5 minutes. I was just bouncing off the walls, having a great time. And the next one came up, and he was like, all right, now we're going to try this flavor. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. And I tried the next one. Straight paranoia, anxiety inducing, chest got tight, totally threw me off the cliff, just ankles and elbows just to the wind, man. I literally laid on the floor because my back tightened up with all the anxiety. Everything got all freaked out. I laid on the floor for like 2 hours, and they felt so bad that they threw me off the cliff like that. They all sat here on my couch and chilled, and we all watched TV. They watched TV, and I freaked the fuck out laying on the floor. And they were here for like a whole movie. They watched a whole movie while they were, and every about 10 minutes, man, you okay? How you doing down there? No, I'm not. I'm not okay. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. All right, well, we're still here.
Yeah, man.
It was
That's
bad,
so
man.
unfortunate that it's so intense. It can be such manic highs and such manic lows, like
The
such low
first one,
lows.
yeah, the first one was beautiful. I was like ready to go run a marathon and shit. Like, it was
Yeah,
amazing.
that's the one you want to like work out and like right before a hike. Like, yeah, it's fucking go. Or like right in the middle of a hike, I should say, to like get you through, to get you back.
It was almost like it was, I wouldn't call it psychedelic, but I would call it like mind expanding. Like, I was having like serious, beautiful thoughts. I was like not watching the clockworks of the world work, but I was like, I have these plans that I've been working on, and I could see how they were all working together and how it was all going to come together on some like mastermind shit. And then they gave me that second one, and it all went out the window. But yeah, it was a wild ride that day. That's when I was like, you know what, dabs really aren't for me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had some very tasty dabs. I will say that. It's like, yeah, tastes great. I mean, that's just straight. The last thing I bought was right here, Extreme Blueberry number 14 by Raw Garden. It's a sauce. And yeah, it tasted straight up like blueberry. And not even like a blueberry muffin or anything like pastry like. It was just straight blueberry. And I loved it. I loved it because it was just you don't get that with most of the blueberry strains that I had. So I was pretty interested in it. But other than that, I mean, yeah, I got you high, but then 30 minutes passed by, and then it's fleeting for me. It's just like, why bother? For you, for that dosey do, that's perfect. It's perfect. Just a little bit in. And then if you need more in an hour, you need more in an hour.
Right.
It's that's a great way of doing it. You
Yeah,
gotta,
like,
like I mentioned before, dosages. Know
right,
yourself too.
right. Right. Last night, yeah, I took one puff and hung out with the guys, everybody here for a couple of hours, and that was good. And yeah, I felt it wore off, but I was so sensitive, I didn't want to double down and have some more and cause the issue. Where tonight I've had 3 or 4 puffs just hanging out here, just trying to. And honestly, the last one
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I hit here when you and Rez were talking, I was just watching you guys watching your mouths move for a minute, like, but there was no anxiety or paranoia or nothing. But I was at the upper level of where I was comfortable being. But I was like, oh wow, I'm high, like hi.
Nice.
But
Nice.
yeah,
It must feel good after a
yeah,
couple of months of just trying to get yourself like straightened out.
and
I've been there myself where I just needed to like, no, I don't need anything. I need to get my base. And that's good. That's very responsible of you. And not a lot of people do that. They're just like, nah, I'll keep going or go even harder. They're just like, "Shit, just
I can't do that too
chill."
much.
Do you do any like breathing practices yourself
Um,
to help? That's what I found helped me with my own anxieties when I'm just in a really intense social situation. I'm around a lot of people. Sometimes it wouldn't even be like it would just be a room full of people. Wouldn't have to be like a concert. Because I've been in concerts where I'm like, oh, I'm just having a lot of fun. But then there would just be certain situations where I would just be surrounded by people and
kind
feel
of a
very like my all of my senses would be at peak, basically.
it's kind of an
And
energy thing with me. Um, I
yeah,
can pick up on other people's energies, and if I'm picking up on too much of the wrong energies from the wrong people, I just have to leave the room. It's not something like a breathing thing will help me through, but this
that's a good
year
point.
has tested me like very few other years in my life. And before this all happened, I did meditate. I did have exercises, like mental exercises I would go through. But I fell so far off my rocker this year that I've yet to reinstitute that stuff into my life. But it's coming. I'm obviously to the point where I can smoke and getting back to myself.
Yeah, yeah. You're
Um,
just getting your base, just
but
like we were mentioning before.
in hindsight, I did lose myself for 6 months, probably, um, from at least March to September. I mean, wasn't myself at all. So it does feel good to get back to the point where I'm comfortable being high, because I wasn't even that for a while. You know, 4 or 5 months. I wasn't even like I didn't even want to smoke. Like, so I'm getting there, but I think by the end of the year I'll be back to breathing exercises and really be back to myself. It's just taken me a while, but
Yeah,
normally,
yeah. You'll
norm-
never be fully in control. It's just about the like, okay, just realize everything is fine around you. Your body is feeling this way. Just take a deep breath and relax. Is how I talk to myself. I'm not even telling anyone how to do it.
right,
I'm just explaining how I calm myself down. Like, hey, look around you. No one's coming to attack you. So have your full alert down. Tear
right,
yourself down from the full alert because it goes all the way up for me. And I see it in my family and they're like, no, no, nothing's wrong with us. I'm like, all right, yeah. Just see how they react to certain situations. Yeah. I have the benefit of having a little bit of cannabis to work with that. So I'm looking forward to keeping some. I haven't had the space to keep anything. So when people are like, "Oh, what works for you?" I really like that 9 pound hammer. It just worked for me, and I never understood why. And then when I was listening to Jinx, he was saying how much it helped a lot of the vets. That a lot he was getting a lot of vets coming to him saying like, "Yeah, man, this helped me out a lot to just relax in general. Somebody was asking me, his name is Kevin, but I don't remember his tag, but it was on Operation Grow. He's like, oh, well, I was describing all that, my anxiety and sleep issues. He's like, well, what works for you? What have you kept? I'm like, I, I don't keep anything. I just run seeds, because I just want to try. I'm at the beginning. I want to try everything, and I haven't tried, even the stuff that I have tried. I still want to try it, run through my 10, because just because I bought it doesn't mean I got like the true experience like it. But anyway, yeah, and I named that one. So I hopefully that helped him out. And it was even his birthday, so
Oh,
fingers
awesome.
crossed that that helped him out. Yeah, hopefully he'll look back and like, oh, on my 30th birthday, I heard of the strain. But yeah, that has like some gooberry in it, and gosh, I can't remember. Yeah, man. We could both ramble, whatever, because we're
Yeah.
pretty faded. Yeah.
Is the Eagle
Uh,
still bouncing around over there somewhere? Does he
yeah,
want
yeah. He's drilling and he's jackhammering.
to? I seen him come back a minute ago when we were 1 foot out the door, and then we stood there and talked for 10 more minutes. So I didn't.
Yeah, yeah. Well, luckily that conversation was the 10 minutes that we were like, oh, we were trying to hold on. But we got to have a
Yeah,
good
we
talk. It's
did
good
great.
talking to you, man. I will
Yeah,
say you seem pretty mellow and much more comfortable. So uh I'm happy to see that you're feeling better.
yeah, yeah. It'll only get better here now, as long as
Cool.
nobody rocks my boat too hard. Um, but yeah, getting back to myself.
Good, man.
I'm getting
Yeah,
ready to
yeah.
peel
And
out of
we'll
here.
talk in private for if you need anything from me. Uh,
Cool.
I'm more than willing to help out, whether that's plants or otherwise. Just
Yeah,
swapping
man.
knowledge. Yeah, but
Thanks for hanging in there.
I'll sign myself off first.
Okay.
You did it. And you can
All right.
finish us off. So yeah, I'm Raptor Grow. You can find me on Instagram. Don't have a YouTube, but I am on Humidor and the Flavors YouTube channel when he does his lives on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. Tuesdays and Wednesdays are at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard. So, oh, and Saturdays it's 8 o'clock Pacific Standard. Hope to see you all there. We have a lot of fun. Sometimes it's a certain topic in general. Sometimes we have a guest. Sometimes it's all of us just having fun and talking about whatever comes up and whatever's happening in the cannabis community too. So yeah, hope to see you all there. Have a great day or night. Stadium.
Have a good
Good
night,
one.
Good
man.
one, Rafter.
Night, Eagle. Or
There
good
he is.
morning. There he is. Yeah. Have a good one, bro.
All right, man.
Good one.
You can catch
It's
me on.
Cascadian.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna get ready to peel out of here too to go find my pillow. So I'll leave you to close her down, man. But anybody still watching, thanks for hanging in there, all 45 of you. Appreciate the conversation that's been in chat. You guys have kept me on my toes tonight. If you're looking for me, I'm Cascading Grown on IG, or you can also catch me with Raptor and Fumi and the guys on Fumi's channel on the Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturdays. And here in the rabbit hole, it seemed to be a reoccurring guest. So thanks for having me, Eagle. Thanks for having the platform and being there every night. Yeah, man, with that, I think I'm going to peel on out of here. I appreciate it. And I'll see you guys again soon.
Thank you. I'm glad you're becoming a recurring member. I'm looking forward to smoking with you tomorrow.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having
If you
me.
got time. If you got time.
I'll be here. If you got time, you know,
All
if
right, man.
if they leave you time for the rabbit hole, I'll be here. If they're greedy like I was
All
and
right.
all night, then I'll catch you the day after. I'll be here, man. Have a good one.
You have a great day. Well, just me and that lovely piece of hash, I guess. Well, I feel like a butthead not doing the shout outs, so I'm kind of in the middle of something, guys. Kind of in the middle of something. I do feel like a butthead not doing the shout outs. I feel like I'm forgetting something terribly, terribly wrong. But I appreciate you guys popping in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. A lot of great combo, a lot of great knowledge. Was dumped in the rabbit hole tonight. And no music to fuck it all up. Hopefully you guys will tune in tonight when Noah the Grower will be joining me during the main part of the episode. We'll be getting to know him a little bit deeper. Find out what happened with that foot. And having a good night. So I hope you guys had an amazing day. If this is the end of your day, get some rest. If this is the beginning of your day, get out there and kick some ass. Be prosperous. Be good to somebody. Purple Thumb, you be safe. Russ, you be safe as well. That is very true. Do something nice for somebody, and random acts of kindness, do not forget them. They are very, very important. With that being said, you guys have an amazing Tuesday, and I'll see you tonight with Noah the Grower. Thank you for tuning in.